Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Hope everybody's doing well today. MashaAllah, it's been a mixed day today here in the city of Coventry, here in the West Midlands in the UK. I'd like to welcome everybody joining us, MashaAllah. Hopefully, we'll have some new people in the chat. Feel free to join in. This is going to be a very interesting topic, guys. It's an open forum. As you can see, the title of today's show, it's like, what's the end game? We're actually going to talk about the beliefs of from the Islamic theology about the end times, and what are the signs, and are we receiving some of the signs right now from certain individuals in the media? So yeah, I'm not going to open the can of worms straight away. We're going to have a very interesting show. But before this, guys, please, I just want to make a request. Subscribe to my channel. Hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, God willing, I'll be going to Speaker's Corner this Sunday. So, guys, please subscribe to the channel. And I'm hoping to get to 10,000 subscribers. So please continue. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah to Shazad Hussein, Abdullah, mashallah, wa alaikum salam. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. So let me just remind our new visitors to the channel. It's going to be a very interesting show. We are going to talk about what's the end game and what are the signs, guys. Because at the end of the day, I think certain personalities are woken up, or Allah has guided them to Islam, to kind of just to change the narrative, guys. The narrative regarding Islam, I think it's going to be changing. I think the platform's there with a certain individual called our brother now, Andrew Tate. I think with his conversion, I think the narrative is going to be changed. Brother Mustafa, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. It's going to be a very interesting topic, guys. So, Brother Mustafa, first question I'm going to pose to you. I actually think now the fact that Andrew Tate has converted to Islam and he's quite passionate, he uses sometimes language, being a revert, I think over time he'll change his tone of voice or his language. I think he is, Allah has placed him in a particular situation now that he's going to be outspoken and he's going to tell people how it is. And I think people will embrace Islam because of his message. Do you think I've got the right understanding here? And do you think he's changing the platform and the game? Do you think he's changing the game?
First of all, let's give wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brother Mohammed. It's always great to be on your channel. You're such a polite and cordial host. So, and I would request people in the audience who are listening on currently to please subscribe to brother Mohammed's channel. His channel is a growing channel, inshallah, and he does his live streams regularly. And if you could just tell your contacts about this channel as well. I remember reading as a kid a famous children's investigation book by Alfred Hitchcock called The Three Investigators, in which three young American investigators who are only teenage boys, they live in Hollywood, and they've got a method of trying to get information in surrounding areas regarding criminal activities. And they would use something called ghost to ghost hookup, whereby they tell 10 of their friends to tell 10 of their contacts about a certain individual who they are trying to find, and the word soon gets about. So all we need to do is tell people about these particular channels, which are very much in vogue, and they're very, very useful for Muslims to understand certain events that are occurring in the lead up to these end times, hence the title of the topic. So in effect, what we're going to speak about today, and we've already spoken about on previous shows, is in regards to this fundamental topic of what period of history we're living in now, and what is the relevance for us Muslims and also for Christians about these end time scenarios, i.e. the Dajjal system, which will be prevalently in place, What will be the setting of this Dajjal system, unlike any other period in history? And who will be the main proponents of this Dajjal system, and what will be the general sphere of things. So with the point that the brother Muhammad made with the conversion of brother Andrew Tate to Islam, it's a huge thing, you see. It should not be underestimated, because everything we are about to, inshallah, discuss on this show, he has mentioned in considerable depth. The reason why this brother came to Islam is, he makes a fantastic analogy, which I've never heard before. He says he believes there must be a good God because he's seen so much evil on the other side, that there must be the opposite of that. Look at this fantastic eulogy of his, unheard of before. But he's been in the system. He's seen every avenue of luxury of life, of enjoyment. He claims this in his videos, which he has recently had with various Muslim personalities and other such individuals. And Allah has guided him to a light, you see. Allah puts it in the heart. So now he's making very clear what this system is all about, why he is the third most Googled person on earth. This is his tremendous approach and influence that he has worldwide. The youth really admire him, look up to him. And by this method, he is now ready to speak the truth about the system and everything that is spiraling towards these end time scenarios, and how our universal way of living is going to be changed forever. What is normal in all societies is going to become abnormal. The time is coming fast when we drop our children to school, your child may have a friend who does not have a mother. He simply has two fathers. Or a girl will have simply two mothers. This is the climate that we are going to come into now, contrary to what Allah has revealed. In discussions that we will discuss further, there are organizations who are fighting for judicial review in this country to stop the entities such as RSC, which is relationship and sex education for young children at primary school, which they are seeking to enact. Unified organizations, people of faith, Muslims and Christians, are trying to raise funds in order for a judicial review to take place to throw out RSC from schools. And this is being because it's going at such a pace at the moment that it's going to become incumbent upon all schools to teach at even primary school level, at even nursery school level, such education, which is at the moment optional, but soon to become mandatory. And hence, we are living in a time, an ominous time, especially for our youth. The system is going to turn Allah's law upside down. So people of faith, Muslims, Christians in particular, but people who share those common values, need to stand up to see what this Dajjal system is spiraling towards. And we will discuss this in length on the show.
MashaAllah, it's very interesting, Akhi. I just want to make a point. Brother Mustafa has really kindled my learning when it comes to the last day. I remember many years ago reading regarding the Dajjal and some of the signs and so forth, guys. But alhamdulillah, barakallah feekum to our brother Mustafa C here. That alhamdulillah, he's really kind of like I said, kindled my learning to pick up some of the narratives. And this is learning from the hadith, not learning from any kind of literature, philosophy and stuff. I'm on about hadith, authentic narrations. So this stream is dawah also. I know we're talking about certain situations, but it's related to our religion and our way of life. Okay, guys? So we got to understand that the Dajjal is actually going to be a human being. He's actually going to be a human. He will be eating and drinking. Okay, he will be a human who will eat and drink. He's not going to be like a supernatural, like what we see on the media, like some type of horror movie. He actually is going to be a human being. And I remember Brother Mustafa mentioning regarding the advertisement regarding the young lady on the bike having one eye. And of course, the description of the Dajjal is that he's going to be a human being who's going to he will be eating and drinking, and he'll have one eye. One eye. and the Dajjal will be seen by the people, by the believers and the kuffar alike when he emerges. So that's clear in the authentic narrations, brothers and sisters. So, Brother Mustafa, I really think I love the fact the way that our brother Andrew Tate is pushing back regarding some of these Islamophobes. He's saying it now because I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put him in a particular beautiful location because he's experienced the million pound environment that he's living in. And as you said, he's experienced the bad, the evil, and he's got it, and he's accepted there has to be a good, there has to be a God. And he's come to a conclusion where he said Islam is the only way. Islam is the only religion. Why do you think, Brother Mustafa, he's come to this conclusion?
It's amazing all these points, brother, you've made. But in terms of a belief in God, I think this was already inherent within him. But those things that Allah has forbids, it was already inherent within Andrew Tate, as an example. So he spoke and he got castigated and vilified for example, being a misogynist, speaking against supposedly against women and being anti-woman, and the feminists really got onto him. But the fact was, he was just disclosing the differences between man and woman, how God has created us, what the gender roles are, how we should live as a cohesive unit, as a cohesive family, in a cohesive structure. And they found that intolerable. Just like these feminists, for example, and the system in place finds it intolerable in every way, shape, or form that those verses in the Quran and the Bible, for example, in the Bible it says the head of woman is man, the head of man is Christ, the head of Christ is God. This verses the feminist ballcat, they become infuriated by it, and because they reach positions of dominance and power, they are able to suppress this as well. In the Quran, Allah says this, something very similar, that the believing women are obedient to Allah and by proxy to their husbands. So these, to the very religiosity of what Allah has revealed, these satanic forces are going to do to the contrary. So where Allah has forbidden LGBTQ, they are going to propel it. Where Allah has given the authority to man in matrimonial affairs, they are going to give it to the women. Where Allah has decreed that He is the one true God, the creator of all the heavens and the earth, they are going to propel atheism. This is I've spoken about this on previous shows, that these are an entity of individuals who are determined to go against God. So they've already usurped their fundamental religion in the West, which was Christianity. Usurp means it's now been steamrolled by the Dajjal forces, whereby within the Christian church you get every element of anti-God sentiment. With we get gay vicars and pastors and priests who are between each other gay, and they're able to marry people within churches, do gay ceremonies. It's just simply unbelievable what's happening in the church. And why I encourage people to watch these films, which I've encouraged Brother Mohammed to do, and his eyes are slowly opening, is that they tell us subliminally, in messages, in films, in TV advertisements, what they're up to. But in order for us to understand Islamic eschatology and Christian eschatology, we have to envelop these things. And you made an excellent point, Brother Mohammed. Everything I speak of, I have just ratified from the Hadith and then observed everything. And Allah has shown to me in this way. You understand? Because when the Dajjal comes, the people who will understand his first coming, they will be the mu'min. This is a Hadith as well. They will be mu'mins. They understand who this Dajjal system is. He will have kufr written on his forehead, but those who understand him in his metaphorical coming, because the setting is being done before the Dajjal arrives. Everything that God has revealed, they're going to make the society become contrary to the everyday structure of things. Everyday structure of normal morality, they're going to turn upside down. So with Andrew Tate, Allah has put this in his heart. So every conclusion he's made, when he speaks about and then, it's incredible. But I think people need to, for him, I would love to speak to him one-on-one, to say to him, everything you said before becoming a Muslim is compartmentalized within our hadiths. So your mentioning of position of gender roles. It's mentioned in the hadiths. It's mentioned how Islam actually remedies ills in society and shows what the gender roles are. Islam shows in every way, shape, or and form what is acceptable and unacceptable. So everything that he elucidated upon, he felt inherently it's within the Islamic structure, and hence he would make comments that, you know, for example, with due respect, he found that Christianity doesn't serve a purpose. If it allows, you know, gay vicars and pastors and you know, to infiltrate the church, then even though God is totally against it, as we read in the Old Testament in stories such as Sodom and Gomorrah, yet the Christians allow it. So he realized Christianity has just been usurped by these entities, and now the target is Islam. Islam is the target now, you see. And films like Omen 1, you can see it. Brother Muhammad has seen it, and he's observed things slowly, what I've been saying. So within these films, these shows that we do actually need to be a 24-hour show, which I remember Kenny Bomber once did a 24-hour show on his Consider This TV, because this is such a lengthy topic. But when you put all the dots together, which was the title of the previous show we had, it needs explanation. It needs hadith narrative, number one, in conjunction with these end time scenarios, and then for people to understand where we're all spiraling towards. And then it will take a structured method of explaining things. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, his will become victorious. But someone like Andrew Tate, which we've mentioned several times, and the reason for that is his massive significance on the world stage. And the way he thinks was purely in harmony with Islam. And hence Allah guided him, and he could be a great avenue to elaborate what Allah has ordained must happen. Hence his compulsion towards the religion. And now, of course, because he's been brave enough, and he's been super brave to come out to speak against these entities, what they get up to, and he is now fearful for himself, but still strong, but fearful for himself in the sense of, you know, he could be at any time pushed away. And this is not a diatribe of a madman. Look, he's the third most Googled person on planet Earth. Hence, he made in one of his recent videos his fear of being knocked off, that he's receiving phone calls, threatening phone calls. His own voice has been played back in terms of conversations that he has, which he was unbeknown have been recorded. So these individuals, these entities who are just, say, slithery to the point of being sick mentally, and you can see it, they have taken the judiciary over, for example. You know, they go into seances post their sessions in a court as barristers or judges, and of an evening they'll go to somewhere like St. James Place in central London, and they will delve into seances, and they will delve into the supernatural to the extent that they are those who Allah has mentioned in the Quran. They've sold their souls of the hereafter for this life, and they are eulogizing Shaitan, Satan, and when they get together in these groups and perform all these evil acts, it's all to the command of Shaitan. So because they can do certain acts to indemnify themselves towards Shaitan, who can then appear to them and then tell them, and I know it sounds, people might think, oh, this is just some sort of crazy nutters who are just speaking, but for Muslims and Christians particularly, this is not crazy. This is to the point to understand how our society has been molded by certain individuals. And these individuals Allah says that they work day and night to dissuade people from Allah. But yet they pretend to be the peacemakers, for we are only peacemakers. But yet these are the people who want to corrupt against Allah, who will poke their chest out to Allah. And I mean, I can name one person. For me, the most biggest Dajjal today is a guy called Michael Gove. He is again within the government of Rishi Sunak. He's got a senior position. He's an open Zionist who was the actual propellant of RSE, Relationship and Sex Education, when he was Education Secretary during David Cameron's government. This guy propelled this. And now it's going to be enforced on young children, where they have to learn about the same-sex education, the intricate details of what that involves. I've just sent Brother Mohammed an article where there is a pressure group which I would encourage if he can view that particular WhatsApp what I've sent to him, and you can post that for people to donate, so that there can be a judicial review which is taking place on the 15th and 16th of November, so not long to go. If people can contribute towards that, then the judicial review will have to review whether it's satisfactory that RSE is taught to children of a particular age. So these are unique opportunities for people to raise their voices, to contribute to this system, which if we don't do anything, and the whole system will just rush headlong towards this antichrist system. So I can assure you, listen to people, listen carefully. This satanic system is spiraling towards a structure of living that is contrary to what we have revealed, and your youth are in huge danger. Their very moral fabric is in huge danger, and this is what we must all resist at all costs.
Subhanallah, it's very powerful, Akhi. I just want to remind the people that the word Dajjal and the Masih, people get confused with why is the Dajjal called Masih. Is because one of his eyes will be wiped. So his left eye will be, I think, wiped. So meaning that it will be blinded. So he'll just have one eye. So that's why is the term Masa or Yamsa is used, because one of his, Mamsu, let me get the Arabic term right, is Mamsu, meaning it will be wiped or be smooth, like one of his eyes. And he'll be walking through the earth, guys. And the description of it, Brother Mustafa, you really explained the description why some of the, and I'm not racist, I'm not anything, why a certain group of people will be following him, and why the media are pumping this particular type of people in the limelight. He'll have thick curly hair. And I'm not racist, don't get me wrong, guys. My second wife's from Ethiopia. I've got mixed race children. I'm not, being. But this is the description of the Dajjal, that will have curly black hair. So, Brother Mustafa, what's your take on that, brother?
Yes, brother, absolutely. I mean, more poignantly, this issue which I've spoken to you about in reference to the Hadith, which I'll have to bring up. I've got several friends who are well versed in this Hadith, and I remember reading an A5 hardback copy of, I think it was Sahih Muslim or Sahih Bukhari, over 20 years ago, in which it describes some of the people who will join in battle against the Muslims and Christians, who will be unified, and they will be of close cropped curly hair, mixed race, from amongst the Romans, which are referred to in Islamic eschatology as Europeans, and coming from these lands. Hence, the attempt to crush racism is being done as a result of this attempt to amalgamate black and white people. Hence, if you watch the media very carefully, there is an attempt to crush racism at all costs. And you would say that, well, isn't that a great thing that one must crush racism? But it's all being done for a purpose. And this would in itself is a long explanation, and it requires time for people to listen and observe. First of all, I've always start from the Hadith, and from there I work upwards. And by working upwards, you show in a absolute bilateral and unilateral manner the way they're acting. So what they're in effect doing is, the Hadiths make mention that these mixed race people will be those who will fight against Muslims. So the reason why they're trying to crush racism, essentially speaking, is the establishment, who have been infiltrated by the Zionists, who plot and plan decades in advance, and they read our Hadith. So the Hadiths make mention about these mixed race people. Hence, if you watch the media closely, TV advertisements or anything in them, you will see black people now being the face of portrayal of everything good. In TV advertisement, you will see mixed race people advertising all products. This is a new phenomenon. Just observe it on the TV. Watching TV has some benefits. It shows to you how the system now is trying to crush racism, but for an overall objective of thrusting these people who will be mixed race into battle against Muslims, because these mixed race people will be those who will hold the same value as what these Zionists are: proponents of LGBTQ, defenders of atheism, proponents of feminism. And this is what you will observe will happen. So I've just elucidated, I've just touched upon these points. It requires
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, brother. And I'm sorry for cutting you up. I know the most of the followers of the Dajjal will be from amongst the Jews, Persian and Turks, and a mixture of other people, mostly Bedouins and women. And it's interesting that all these categories are mentioned, brother. So, firstly, from among the main followers will be the Jews, then the Persians, then the Turks, and a mixture of other people, mostly Bedouins and women. And I really want to hit on the last statement where the women are kind of mentioned here. Is interesting, brothers and sisters. This is an authentic narration from the Prophet ﷺ in Tirmidhi, where why the women are mentioned here is because they are swayed easily. This is the hadith narrated in Ahmad, 5099. And I just want to make this point, brother Mustafa. As we can see now, Andrew Tate is exposing these so-called feminists right now. He's actually saying the women's role should be this, and he was hated for it. He was nearly crucified for it. He was taken off social media for it. Secondly, I actually think they're going to make up lies against him. I think they're going to get certain females now to come out and say, oh, Andrew Tate's basically hit me, he's abused me. He's just to kind of maybe go through the court system, a very expensive court system, and maybe try to bankrupt him. What's your take? First strike has been done, brother Mustafa. They tried to evict him from social media, but alhamdulillah, that's made him even more stronger. His second strike is financial destruction. What's your take on that, brother Mustafa?
Absolutely, brother. I mean, this is exactly what he's made mention himself. The second strike, in addition to the first strike, which is to silence his voice by cancelling his YouTube channel, and he's also his brother's YouTube channel, perversely. And secondly, the second way to silence him will be to go after his wealth, and, as brother Mohammed so very pertinently mentioned, the attempt now to perhaps use some women to accuse him of doing some act which he has not done, which has been prevalent in the media. There's a soccer player called Benjamin Mendy, plays for Manchester City, who's going through a system where he invited women over to his flat for a party, and they subsequently accused him of raping them when they came over of their own free will. So that court case is currently continuing. So now they're going to probably rub their hands together. How are we going to silence this little ant? Ant is what they would refer to someone like Sean Tate, who's speaking up against them. So they're probably thinking, yep, let's plot against him in some way or another. And that could well be, as you've made mention very intelligently, that they could well say that he's done such and such act, and next thing you know, he's going to go through a massive court case, be put into custody, lots of lies will be made up against him, the whole system. Now, thing is, when you made mention about the women, you see, the thing is, it's, as I made mention, what Allah has revealed, these entities are going to do to the contrary. So if Allah has given the authority to the man, they are hell-bent on giving it to the woman. In courts, we will see that in terms of division of property in the result of a divorce taking place, the woman grabs everything and the children and so forth, and the men are left with nothing. Hence, you get these organizations such as Fathers for Justice, Family Needs Fathers. It's because they're getting no justice. This whole system is against them. When these characters from organizations such as Fathers for Justice or Family Needs Fathers, they dressed up in superhero kits like Batman and Superman and went on top of buildings in central London. So because they were so desperate as the result of the favoritism that the family courts give to the women and the esoteric manner in which they maneuver, to the extent that these women who are in control of this particular system don't let fathers see their children. These people become desperate. So they got to do super extenuating acts for the public to realize. But what does the media do, which is also in the grip of this Dajjal system? They vilify these fathers who go and dress up as superhumans, calling them extreme and not going about things in the right way, it's because they observe that within the family courts, every juncture, the father is being stopped. The father is being not allowed to see his children. As a result, people go, they lose faculty, they lose their minds. So these feminists who are in control, they even tell us in their TV adverts how we're going to dominate you. There's a brother, Mohammed, there was one advert came up very recently. The same thing in reference to the one-eyed eye patch, which the woman wears, is now on the TV. There's a black woman who's in medieval England, okay, and she's approached by her cook. I'm not sure if you've seen this advertisement, and he's trembling when he goes up to her, offering her some food, right? And she's sitting in this big table, like a banquet, which they had during, for example, the time of King Henry VIII, long tables, and you see her, this black woman dressed up like a princess in England, in a huge banquet, and the guy who offers her the food is trembling to say whether he likes it or not. She then tests it, and initially doesn't like it. He quickly rushes away and makes some more food. She tests it and she likes it, and he breathes a sigh of relief. This is to show to us that the women, we will dominate you. Men, you will run behind us. Like that TV advertisement, I'll never forget this, brother. It's so powerful. It was before a sporting event. A men's cricket tournament took place. It was followed by a women's cricket tournament. And before that women's cricket tournament took place on Sky TV, the women would advertise their tournament by standing in one row together, the English women cricket team, and the English women's cricket captain folds her hands and makes the exclamation on the Sky Sports TV advertisement, "It's now our turn." What does this mean? Is it our turn to play our tournament? Or is it our turn to dominate you now, that you've dominated us? It's now our turn. Other subliminal message in the Game of Thrones. This is why watching the media is very important. When the woman sits on the throne, yes, and she makes a very calm, cool comment. Again, within the context of the film, you think, what am I talking about? She says the following: "Whoever stands in our way, we will defeat them."
It's powerful, brother. Can I it's a very powerful statement that you're saying, guys. That somebody's asking me in the chat right now, the hadith reference is in Ahmed, number 5099, regarding majority of the women will be following the Dajjal, and because they are easily swayed. And this is very important, my brothers and sisters, that it'll come to a stage where the Dajjal will come to this pond in Medina, a valley in Medina. We know that the Antichrist will not be able to enter Mecca and Medina because there are angels guarding these two beautiful places, blessed places. So that the Dajjal won't be able to enter these two cities. But the Dajjal will travel across the lands, the earth. He'll freely travel. So it come to a stage where this hadith in Ahmed in 5099, where a man will come to his mother-in-law and his mother, his daughter, his sister, and his aunt, and will tie them up strongly for the fear that they will go out to him. So the Dajjal will come to a valley near Medina, not entering Medina, but near Medina. And the man will be worried that I don't want my wives to be kind of brainwashed. Is a good term to use, brainwashed, to go out and believe that the Dajjal is somebody to be followed. And he'll tie his female folk, tie them up to say, look, stay inside, don't go out. Don't be fooled with what you see. And unfortunately, brother and sister, brother Mustafa, is so common now for our sisters to be so gullible. What they see on media and TikTok and all this kind of stuff, is my body. I want to do with what I want to do is my body. If I want to expose my aura, I want to. It's my body. Who are you to tell me? You can sleep on the couch. Brothers and sisters are living. Brothers are living in a sexless marriage. There's nothing going on. The man sleeps on the sofa. He works 12 hours, 14-hour shifts. He comes home. He has to cook his own. He's got to cook his own meal. The woman's like, hey, you do what you want to do. I'm going out. I'm going to go out with my friends to watch a movie. This is what's happening right now, brothers and sisters. What's your take on that? Sorry, Brother Mustafa, maybe I'm speaking a bit too harshly, but this is the reality we're living in now. The women are doing what they want. I'm on about the Muslim women are doing what they want to do. They see what they see on TV. For example, Friends. I remember when Friends came on, brother. Remember, I've heard about it. I've never seen it. The women started acting like that. The sisters, I'm going out now. Husband comes after a 14-hour shift. You know what? You can look after the children now. I'm going out with my friends. I'll be back about 2:00. Don't wait up for me. This is the reality we're living in right now, Brother Mustafa. What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely, bro. You're absolutely correct in every way, shape, or form. The points that you're making in relation to this, this is nothing. There are women, brother, who are actually dominating their menfolk at home to the extent they cannot even breathe in their own homes. When they've got responsibility towards other family members, women find it intolerable. If they want to serve their mother, the wife does not want it. So many things are going on where men are having to,
so true,
tread on eggshells. Such is the way they're being put under relentless pressure in an unceremonious way, you see. And women know this is the position. I mean, there's a harrowing case of one brother I know who wants his children to see his parents, but the woman says, "Nope, you cannot take my kids to see your parents." Such is the control and level. And these are practicing Muslim women who are doing it. It's absolutely shocking, but and you know why they can do it? Because they know the system is with them. It starts right from the top. Satanists such as Priti Patel, the ex-Home Secretary, and I've explained this in step-by-step detail how the Dajjal system works, how they've empowered women, and how they set about setting policies. So the main emphasis of that particular policy is as such that they do it in methods which I've already explained in previous shows. They start from the top, where people like the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, ex-Home Secretary Priti Patel, they give the orders on how to empower the system. You get the head of the Metropolitan Police, who was Cressida Dick. So you can see how the method is flowing from the politician, a rabid, staunch feminist, Priti Patel, through to her cohort, who would be Cressida Dick, through right to the police domestic officers, who would be predominantly women, right through to the social workers, who will be women as well. All a big entity set up, you see, to crush the man. So if men complain about domestic violence perpetrated by women against them, they will turn it around the police will turn it around. They'll make the man seem the perpetrator. So what I'm trying to say, because this in itself, these are lengthy topics that we need to elongate on and focus primarily. So the show that we actually need to do, it must be a several-hour show. It's simply for people to get a breakdown, because these things require a breakdown because there's new information. But everything that we are basing upon, the points that we're making, is based upon Islamic eschatology. So if as you've narrated about the hadith in regards to women, further we must substantiate. It says that the majority of the inhabitants of the hellfire will be women, because they were ungrateful to their husbands. For whenever a husband does any good to the wife, she says, "I've never seen any good coming from you." Okay, Allah does not like this. In addition, the language that was used in terms of the hadith, where the menfolk of the home will have to tie the women, that's just figurative language to show such will be the lure of the Dajjal system. The main beneficiaries will be women, and that is to whom the Dajjal will appropriate himself. And why I've asked you to watch Omen 1 was because in the infancy stages of this development, you see the Antichrist figure as a child being looked after women. So as he nurtures himself within the setup of the Western governments, like the US, as a US ambassador, when he reaches his zenith, which is now, he will propel women. So it was all those basics were being done. So in that time, hence they and this is probably what people in the audience may not be familiar with. If you haven't watched the Omen 1 film, as I've already explained to Brother Muhammad, they will look after him in his infancy, and he will then propel them in his zenith, in his strength, which is now. Because the Dajjal comes in two ways. First, the actual figure, the actual physical figure, which will come, who will have one protruding eye like a grape. And we can see eulogies to this, like the American $1 or $5 sign, which is the all-pervading eye is coming down from the pyramid. We can see eulogies to show how much women will adore the Dajjal by paying homage to him. This TV advertisement, Brother Muhammad, where the young girl, American girl rather, blonde-haired girl, which I'm not sure if you've seen the advertisement, she's wearing an eye patch. A young girl, imagine, must be about 9, 10 maximum, with blonde hair, is riding a cycle with an eye patch. Okay? And the advertisement is to do with selling of the Volkswagen Cabriolet. She's wearing an eye patch riding a cycle in 70s US. She goes past an LGBT logo sign, which is the umbrella, and a mixed race child is there as well. So she rides by that with a patch on. And then the next scene you see is the same woman now has reached middle age, which would be now today. She's still got that eye patch, and now she's riding the Volkswagen Cabriolet to show how she's come from riding a cycle, which would be a transport of inferiority, to now riding a luxury car, to show that we are in control, we are dominating, we are riding at full zenith. But the eulogy is to the Dajjal. Hence, it doesn't make any sense for a Volkswagen car to be advertised by a person with an eye patch. Does that make any sense to anyone? Usually, any advertisement historically by this Dajjal system would be sexually luring women who would be draped over a car. That would be one method of advertising a particular car, to show the luxury of the car. So this advertisement which I made mention, which is on the TV now particularly running, are more homages to the Dajjal. So the woman who's got the eye patch is paying the homage, as the one-eyed beast will be the Dajjal, and she's paying that homage to him. Hence, you get this advertisement. You have to actually watch it to actually see it and observe it. But the connotations there are coming out with now are so much. But only people who are aware of eschatology, the Islamic narrative on what the end times will be, to an extent Christian eschatology, because Christians, something, I'll tell you something here. We talk about, when we do da'wah, we talk about tawheed relentlessly, which is absolutely fundamental. No doubt about it. That's the end game. But to unite Christians with Muslims in terms of stopping these entities overpowering people of some sort of moral consciousness, then we have to have an alliance with them, which is what the hadiths also make mention will happen as well. So this is, like I said, it's a broad topic, but we can see it manifestly clear within our sight, living here in the West in particular. And this relentless theme of the drive that they're pushing through is to, number one, empower women, so not that they get their due right, which Allah has given them. Don't forget, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came onto this, was here in this world, in this dunya, and he was able to give all the rights to the women, to the extent that the pagan Arabs were furious with him that he was giving all rights to women. What do we see in the film The Message portrayal, that one of the enemies of Islam says that what do we do with women? We use them, we discard them away. But then the man replied, but I think Ja'far radiallahu anhu, which is characterized in that film, he said, don't you respect the woman who bore you? So he kept silent. So what that shows then is that when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was here, he propelled women's rights, but to the rights that Allah decreed for them. Because previously they were buried alive. But now Allah gave them rights to inheritance, to divorce, so many rights that they were given, which infuriated the pagan Arabs. But it was never to this extent that she would usurp the man. But this society is giving everything to them now, so they usurp the man, dominate the man, make the man fearful, and hence this is how the Dajjal system becomes, you see. So the man becomes inferior. And as a result, because men become insipid, then the women, they seek perversely gratification between themselves, women and women, because no one likes a subservient person. You know, thinking this guy's got no character to him. Hence why women will be more attracted to women. Such will be the power that they will hold, you see, in every avenue of society. So these organizations, in particular, like Family Needs Fathers, Fathers for Justice, heartbreaking stories of how women don't allow fathers to see their children, doting, loving, kind fathers. No courts, even if you're fortunate enough as a father to see your children once or twice a month as a result of a court order. If you, as a result of a court order for that you can see your child, the woman can simply say, "Oh, sorry, I'm unavailable this weekend. Such and such has happened to the child." You can go months or even years without having any contact with your children, and because the women know that we're dominating. So when they sit on those thrones in TV programs, saying it's now our turn, now whoever stands in our way, we will defeat them. So essentially speaking, women's power will become absolutely prevalent, and man will become just secondary. So hence what Allah has revealed, they will empower the opposite to it. The man will have no more. Then
Subhanallah.
the
Yeah.
then the so then the propelling of the LGBT. I know this may sound, I'm repeating myself, but you have to understand the methodology in which they are working, the triumph, the unified pact, the alliance that they've struck together, unlike any other period in history. You see, and this is what, and it's all to what, contrary to what Allah has revealed. Contrary to what Allah Azza wa Jal has revealed, they are going to empower those entities to the full blast, and because they want to lead mankind astray, and that is the end game, to lead mankind astray. So whatever Allah has ordained, they will do to the opposite.
Excellent, mashallah. Thank you. I just want to remind the brothers and sisters just to like and subscribing the channel. We're gonna have like a 30-second break, and then inshallah we're going to continue with the topic. But I'm hoping to get some people on. The link is in the chat. Feel free to click the link and come on and share your thoughts, because I think Islam has a better description of the end times, the Antichrist, and the descent of Jesus, peace be upon him, and the killing of the Antichrist. I don't think any other religion's going to depth like Islam does. So we love to have some non-Muslims come and join us and share their thoughts, brothers and sisters. But guys, just to remind you, please hit the link and like and subscribe. God willing, inshallah, I'm planning to go to Speaker's Corner this Sunday. So look out for that. I'll probably do a live stream from Speaker's Corner. Wa alaikum salam to Mad Younger Gamer. Nice to see you here. 187A, mashallah, the brothers in Islamabad, in Pakistan. I hope you're doing well, Akhi. I hear Imran Khan, unfortunately, there's an assassination attempt on him. So, alhamdulillah, he's recovering, and he's going to continue with his marching and promoting his party. But I do, I actually mentioned to my family regarding Imran Khan that somebody will try to assassinate him. I think they will continue to try to assassinate him. One of the reasons why I think they will continue to assassinate him, there's no other other person to take over his party the way he is, the way his personality is. He's like a unique individual. Like there's none of his children behind him, or nobody else who would, take up that particular role the way he's pushing for Pakistan. And so I do fear for his life. I think, like we mentioned, I think that was his third strike. I think that was his third strike, and alhamdulillah, Allah protect him. But I think there will be more attempts on his life. And it's, he mentioned that, brother 187A. There were definitely 2 gunmen, or maybe 3 gunmen. And it's sad. It's sad what's happening in Pakistan. Brothers and sisters, this link is in the chat. Feel free to jump on. So, Brother Mustafa, you hit some very important points, and you made some very, very important, mashallah, very, very important statements you made. So what is the end game? Surely for us Muslims, we have to return back to our religion, to understanding the end game. What advice would you give to the brothers and sisters to understand the end game and to advise? I was actually talking to my wife today regarding our younger children. I've got a child, Juwaria, she's about 13 now. Udaifa is 11, and Harun has just turned 4. And I fear for them, brother. I really fear for their education, their mental well-being. I actually advised that as soon as they can leave the country, I would get them out of this country and either go to Ethiopia, because that's where their mother is from, and leave this country. This country is finished. I think the UK, I think is finished, is downhill. I can't see the UK recovering from this financial and economical, the social. I can't see the UK recovering at all. I think it's just going to get worse. What's your take on that, brother?
Absolutely, brother Mohammed. The thing is, you see, the system is spiraling towards that as well. Meaning in the sense that because the system is becoming degrading in itself, degradation is becoming absolute manifest everywhere. So Allah then, His wrath will come on such entities. We look at, for example, what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. We observe that carefully, that Lut alayhi salam warned the people to refrain from those acts. They persisted, yet he was patient and he still refrained. Eventually the azab of Allah came upon them. So it's only a matter of time, you see, that, and the reason is the corruption of mankind. Now, I know exactly who's behind all of this as well. I've already made an example of the Zionist Michael Gove, an open Zionist who's appeared on the stage in Manchester in a concert to declare that he's an open Zionist, and the same individual who was the propellant of same-sex education. When these things become more and more manifest in society, and all ungodliness will become rampant in every way, shape, or form, then be sure Allah's wrath will come upon those entities and those societies in which we live. So going away from the situation we're in, I'm not exactly sure, Brother Muhammad, that will serve a purpose, because this Dajjal system, although spread initially from the West, places like Britain and America, which have singularly same policies, it's going to manifestly go throughout the whole world. We were speaking the other day about the imposition of LGBTQ in the Indian subcontinent in places like Pakistan and Bangladesh. You know, when for example, you see in the TV particularly, much advertisements are made.
Brother, you mentioned that, brother, and sorry for cutting off. You mentioned that. I was actually watching a food review the other day where this brother from Bradford went over to Pakistan and he was doing a food review. And in that food review, you had a man dressed like a woman in their sawar kameez, makeup on, and come in and ask for some money or some, like, you know, whatever. And the young brothers were just laughing it off, like it was just like, you know, it was funny. But I was like, what is going on? You know, why is this man dressed like a woman and going in and asking for money? Why do we find it funny? In reality, it's not funny. It's sad. It's sad, brother. You know, yeah, I was quite disappointed with that. And
yeah, sorry.
No, carry on, brother. Carry on.
Thank you. So, for example, I've already spoken about these issues, but when it comes to this Dajjal system spreading worldwide, you see, I'll give an example of this recent. This forthcoming World Football Cup, which is taking place, which is everybody right around the globe is excited about. Now, why are Qatar? If you notice in the media, Qatar has been much vilified as a result of its strict laws against LGBTQ and such entities. You know, supposedly, suppressing of women. So, what's happening as a result? You see, is they've been awarded these, international events for the purpose that they will accede to the pressure, external pressure, to allow these entities to become more free in their societies. So the propelling of feminism, the propelling of LGBTQ will become rampant even in these Muslim countries, which we're seeing in a Muslim country like Pakistan, for example, which is making or passing bills to legalize LGBTQ. So this is spreading worldwide, and the fact that it's spreading in this World Cup we're going to watch, there's going to be more and more pressure on the Qatari government to allow these entities to move. So let's be sure for one thing: whilst they buy soccer clubs here in the UK, they reach secret agreements with their governmental with the government, for the British government, that okay, we're allowing you to buy soccer clubs here in the UK. You in turn will have to listen to us as well. Adopt your policies in regards to human rights, i.e., LGBTQ, feminism, and atheism, and all this type of stuff. Allow these entities to have freedom in your countries. So, as a result of this bargaining, and as a result of Qataris going or Muslims going another way and becoming infatuated by sporting events, they would allow these entities to, all these change of policies, which will spread now in the Muslim countries as well. This issue is not going to be unilaterally simply for the West, an issue of the West. It's spreading everywhere. I was in a platform amongst some Ghanaians. Everybody knows Ghana is a country in Africa, predominantly Christian, but a healthy Muslim minority, in which a recent case where the Ghanaian government, they imposed a prison sentence on LGBTQ activists. And it met with an outcry to the extent that expat Ghanaians who are living in affluent countries are using social media platforms to put pressure on the Ghanaian government to allow these activists to become free and allow them to propel and raise LGBTQ issues. So the Ghanaian government came under ferocious financial attack, where expats were refusing to send money back to Ghana as well. So Ghana held firm. But you can see how this vice is now spreading. At every angle that the Dajjal forces will move, so that the human being will become contrary to what Allah has revealed, will become as such, in such a way that it will become unrecognizable. So this is going to spread everywhere. It's rampant here in the UK, and it's going to get much, much, much more in your face. And as soon as it's going to come a time, which is already here, apparently a child does not even have to inform a parent if that child wants some form of different gender recognition. So if your boy comes home one day and says, Mum, Dad, I'm a girl, and you're going to think, what on earth is he talking about? And see what he's talking about. You find out from school he's changed his name and he wants to be referred to as a girl, and he will be allowed also to be put down as a register to even have a gender change. And he doesn't even have to inform you. The worst thing, he doesn't even have to inform you. This is all coming about. So let's make this straight, so people are not sure that I'm not trying to be blasé or braggadocio about this. Currently, RSC education is optional in schools. The bill is being passed forward to make it mandatory in all schools here in the UK. This is being propelled. If you don't do anything about it, if we don't raise awareness of it, a judicial review is taking place on November the 15th and 16th. I've sent you the link, brother, on WhatsApp. If you can maybe post it to donate to these organizations which are looking for funding, because obviously, if you're going to make a judicial review, this costs a lot of money in the courts to prepare it, to see, okay, is RSE something that we can perhaps look to fight against, because the enemies of Allah are propelling this. They are accentuating it. Like I said, Michael Gove, our #1 Zionist, and I'm telling everyone here, listen carefully, he's the most influential British politician since the late British Prime Minister Maggie Thatcher. He has infiltrated every single resource within David Cameron's government. He was the instigator of this same-sex education when he was Education Secretary, an open Zionist. These are the people who get together in seances and they meet spiritual forces because they become so bored. They are conjoined with very wealthy people who are bored stiff of their wealth. They want more excitement. So when they're introduced to the occult and you see supernatural things occurring, then they become dazzled by it, and then they sell their souls to Shaitan as a result, who then in effect orders them what to do in order to lead mankind astray. It's all about what? Leading mankind astray. So so people all end up in the hellfire. And these are
Mm.
people who've sold their souls, the top brass. Look, when Allah says that they work day and night, so it's not the average Joe Blog who is affecting policies of a system or a government. You go right to the top, right to the top. So when I'm encouraging people to watch films such as Scars of Dracula or Trading Places, or then we can come and speak about it. Come and watch these 3 films. I'm encouraging however many people in the audience watch 3 films. Omen 1, 1976, featuring Gregory Peck. It's available on YouTube. Number 2, Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, a comedy film. Watch that film and we can elaborate upon that. And then the third one is The Scars of Dracula, seeing how these powerful people in predominant systems who are introduced into the supernatural and the occult, and then they sell their souls to Dajjal type figures in order to exactitude the policies of the Dajjal system. And this is how it's working. So I gave a beautiful example about the court system here. Judges, senior barristers, okay, they are introduced to these entities, but into these supernatural occult activities which take place, often by clerks who are women, just ordinary court clerks, who will say, come off an evening, I can show you something which will take your breath away. So they become so dazzled by even meeting these, seeing supernatural things which are beyond comprehension, then they become very much affiliated towards it, and hence they become vicegerents of Shaitan. You understand? This is how it works. There's no, think about this carefully. How does this system work with the Dajjal system? How does it propel itself? It comes to the very top. The top elongate the policies, and the masses follow. And if the masses, and if you don't go according to what they have ordained, as Andrew Tate has made mention, they will finish you off. So this is how they go about. So I would encourage people again to watch these 3 films. And then I think more and more people understand it, the more and more people will grasp how Islamic hadiths, how the hadiths of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in conjunction with what we're observing, is fitting like a glove in terms of these end time scenarios, and the coming of the Dajjal, the coming of Isa alayhi salam, of Imam Mahdi. These are all rampantly shown in hadiths, and we as Muslims can be super confident in this. Unfortunately, our Christian friends, they cannot be, because they've got, unfortunately, again, the prophecies within the Bible fell to a large extent about the return of Isa alayhi salam, because they were expecting him to return within the lifetime of his disciples when he ascended to heaven. They were expecting a quick return, and that the world would end. Isa alayhi salam would come back within their lifetimes, judge them, and that's it. The kingdom of heaven will be upon us. But that hasn't been the case. 2,000 years have gone by. Christians have lost their faith as a result of this non-appearance of Isa alayhi salam. Then how can we know Isa alayhi salam if he's coming, if 2,000 years have gone by? You read the hadiths, you observe some of the points that we've made on these shows, which we will go into considerable depth, because each of these topics require considerable depth, and for people to understand what the end game is. And this end game is now moving meticulously to the system that the Dajjal wants. That will be like a metaphorical system which will be in place before his coming, before his actual coming, as a figurative person, and the havoc that he will cause. So for Christians in particular, everyone listening out there, why is it important that Muslims and Christians unify? Because the book of Revelation is in many ways in conjunction with some of the hadiths which show the characteristic of how Isa alayhi salam will be when he fights against the Dajjal system, how he will be accompanied by warriors who will eventually crush the Dajjal system and crush the Dajjal as well. So we can see overtures of that in Revelation, and in conjunction with the hadiths that we have in regards to the disposition of Isa alayhi salam, how he will be a warrior who will fight against this Dajjal system in a practical warrior type of way. And even the Revelations tells us this will be the case. So this is why the Muslim Christian unity, which is mentioned in the hadith, will take place. They will be united together and fight against this Dajjal system. Unfortunately, there will be those Christians or people of that particular heritage who will fight against the Muslims as well, because they will be usurped by the Dajjal system, and they will be proponents of those to defend that Dajjal system. The Hadiths tell us, the plotting and planning tells us, they're even telling us which type of race of people we will bring forward from these traditional Caucasian European isles. We will propel these people. This is why they're trying to crush racism. These are some of the points which I've made, which I've just alluded to, and the Hadith substantiates these points as well, how they will be. Look at the demographics of this country changing upside down. In the area that I lived in, predominantly most of the people were white Caucasian, going back a generation. Now you don't see a white Caucasian in sight. There's so many reasons why this is happening, so many plotting and plannings which are taking place, and these three films in particular, which I've made mention in depth, they tell you inside out. Watch it. I encourage everybody to watch it. Let's discuss. If you've got any arguments to the contrary, or if you think I'm not making any sense, particularly if you're Muslim or Christian, I challenge anyone to come forward to substantiate your views contrary to what I've made mention. But by the grace of Allah, we will all come together and understand what the system is all about, and hence we can become unified, all for the glory of our Creator.
Inshallah. Barakallah feekum, akhi. I just want to mention a book, guys, that Brother Kenny Bomer has written. I definitely recommend everybody to have a look at it. You can get it on Amazon right now. It's called Your Right to Self-Identify, My Right to Disagree. So just type in Kenny Bomer on the Amazon and you'll pick up that book. That book, subhanAllah, I think Brother Kenny Bomer is going through the strike system right now. I think he's on his first strike, because I know for a fact that he has had some hatred regarding this particular book that he's come out with. And may Allah make it easy for him, make him strong, because this topic, it is a very deep topic, and it's rocking the boat, as to say. Alhamdulillah, we got Brother 187A joining us, I think all the way from Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, akhi.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. How's it going?
MashaAllah, you're showing us the scenery. What's happening?
Yeah. It's all good. Just loving the scenes right now. It's so relaxing here. Last time I came here, I was a toddler. So, soon as I landed here, all of the stress, everything just flew out the window straight away. I can't believe people are missing out.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Assalamu alaikum, brother. In Pakistan, see what happens because you've gone after such a long time since you were a toddler. So just to have a nice experience of being back in your motherland, it's just something which is nice for you to see family which you've not seen before. But the practical issues of Pakistan, as we are aware, is overwhelming. Obviously, being a British citizen, you've gone out there, so you have certain luxuries that you can enjoy, certain enjoyments that you can incur, which the ordinary folk of Pakistan can't, if you see what I mean. So you're able to do so because of a privilege that you have, you see, and that is you're able to then return to the UK after maybe a month or so. You're probably enjoying some of the warm weather, but the issues endemically within this country are terrible. I'm ethnically Pakistani as well, just like Prophet Muhammad, so we know what we're talking about. But it's okay for us. You can have your nice time there. Alhamdulillah, may Allah protect you and preserve you and give you peace and tranquility where you are. But the overall devastating situation of this country, reaped in corruption, reaped in every type of ill which is becoming manifest, is it's a massive problem. And the leader of the opposition has been nearly assassinated, and the people who everybody knows who's behind it. More than likely the government who is behind this. They do this historically. Shehbaz Sharif is an open enemy to Imran Khan, and this is his time to get him back. When Imran Khan used to belittle him in Parliament, do you think they would forget about this? These are the type of people that if you open a business in somewhere like Lahore, which he is a chief minister of before he became president of Pakistan, what they do is that if you open a business, just say you got an idea of opening a chicken and chip shop, which is very popular in the UK, they'll send their henchmen round to ask for something known as a jagga tax. Jagga tax means a gangster tax. You go there, you have to give your certain amount of your earnings from your business to them. This is how they act, brother. This is how
Yeah,
historically they act.
mashallah. I am quite in touch with the reality on the ground and stuff. You know, I understand where you're coming from. I think it's mainly the army anyway. They run this country. This PMLN and all these guys, they're just, you know, the face. But the actual real people who run things around here is the army. So um, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Also, you know, you've been hearing on the news, you know, being Pakistani, obviously you've been connected with the news that, you know, a lot of people are coming out, this and that. But on the ground, it's not. I'm actually not too far from Banigala, so it's not. It's not as big as they show it on the media. You know, you get certain people come out, they block off a certain roundabout, you know, or a junction here and there, but it's not as widespread as the media is showing it. So even when I landed here and I saw all of this with my own eyes, you know, I drove past all of the military guys that are like stacked up with the containers and all that. I saw them, you know, up close. Just trying to, like, you know, scope them out, see what's going on, you know. Um, yeah, even, you know, they're relaxed. They're just enjoying their time. They're facing no resistance whatsoever. Um, and you know, it's not how they show it on the news at all. You know, ground reality is completely different. And even me, I would say Imran Khan has been a bit he's wasting his time really, because he's not the way he wants to do it. He wants that Sri Lanka type of revolution, but the people here, they seem to be very relaxed for some reason. They, you know, they know how things work. They're probably just waiting for the next year election. They're not really in a hurry, so to speak, to get these people out. You know, unless, you know, of course, some miracle happens, and you know, everyone runs up in Islamabad and kick them out of the offices. But from where I'm standing, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Um, and I think Imran Khan knows this. What he's basically doing is he's collecting all the popularity he can. So when he goes into the election next year, it will be a clean sweep. But I really hope the army doesn't go too rogue and take him out before then, because yeah, he's definitely going to win. Everyone from you know, the people at the airport all the way back to my flat, or every single person, you know, a street sweeper, taxi man, whoever you ask, they're like completely against the current government. They all are like, you know, I can't even repeat the things they say. And you know, everyone's really behind Imran Khan, but they're not willing to sort of risk catching a bullet. You know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
you've summarized everything quite very well, brother. In
yeah,
this sense, you see, the army historically have been a tool used by the West to control the politicians of Pakistan, and that is
yep.
one institution which is somewhat less endemic in
It,
corruption.
it,
So how the
yeah,
Brit
it basically came from East India Company anyway. It just basically they stuck a star and a crescent, or you know, moon and a crescent, and it's just rebranded East India Company. That's all it is.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to explain how the system has worked over the last 70 odd years since Pakistan's establishment. So, in
Yeah,
effect, the army, which is educated primarily, you know, their personnel are educated here in the UK. So, how it works is essentially the British, who, when they left the Indian subcontinent, they left their institutions, however, there, and their influence over there. So their methodology was as such, and it's a game of divide and rule post the colonial times, and that was that within the infrastructure of the military, there would be a system of governance which would be free, relatively free from corruption. But in order to control the masses, corruption had to become manifest throughout the whole country. So they can hold on to their power base. Are you following me?
yeah,
So when
yep.
people go from Pakistan to, from Britain, for example, to Pakistan, usually they're encouraged to, if they want to purchase some property or get some, you know, some asset, they're encouraged to do so in army cantonment areas, because they know there's less chance of corruption or less chance of possessions being overtaken. A common
Yeah.
word is called qabza, which means anyone can just literally take over your property.
Oh,
So this.
I'm well aware of that. We
Yeah,
had, you know,
absolutely. So,
my
yeah.
family lost a lot of land to that.
Yeah, because this is endemic in Pakistan. Gangsters
Yeah,
affiliated with politicians just simply take
yeah.
over people's
I
lands.
probably would
This is
have
how
been
it
a
works. The whole country,
millionaire by now. Yeah.
Pakistan's entire politician. Let's get this straight. They are gangsters clothed as politicians. Let's not think any
Oh, of
otherwise.
course. Yeah.
The prime minister, particular, why Imran Khan was different, you see, is that he led his life of luxury here in the 70s, 80s, and so forth. So, and plus his children are well settled in the UK. His determination was to come in and into Pakistan as a prime and change the country somehow, make it self, resilient, self-reliant, make it grow in its infrastructure, in its economy. But the powers that be, they don't want him to go down that path. They don't want the ordinary masses. They want them to remain poor and subjugated within corruption, so they become, submissive. This is the whole point. This is why I was trying to elongate the matter in terms of the military. So when they're taught by the British, for example, in the UK, this is the methodology that you would apply within your infrastructure of your military. You will have free and fair governance. But when it comes to your masses, that is where you spread corruption. So to spread corruption, you give leadership, which is corrupt, and that keeps the people subjugated and in a circular motion of poverty and inability to get justice in this country. This is a country which is well renowned that amongst the most fundamental institutions, such as the judiciary, is reaped in corruption. You can't get justice out there. People, as you've just explained, they lose, they get the land which legally belongs to them. They can lose it just if someone wants to take it over. This is how the
Yeah.
evil system is rampant, and then people become more and more poor, more and more destitute, and then what do? They want out of the country. They want out of the country, hence they go elsewhere to make their living. So this is what the historical trick of the British was, and hence the imposition of military rule, and they become strong and they manifestly hold on. So they allow corruption to spread amongst the indigenous masses through the political system, and hence maintain their power. So if they feel that such and such individuals or such and such political organizations are going contrary to what they want, or more so to their lackeys, people like Bajwa, the general, who comes to Britain, enjoys watching cricket tournaments with British generals, who then meet with him and tell them what your future policies will be. Are you following what I'm saying to you, bro? This is how the system actually works in Pakistan.
Oh,
Still
I mean,
subject.
yeah, I'm actually quite, mashallah, you're very well versed in this. I actually myself come from, my family come from Jhelum, which is like a, big military town. They get a lot of recruits from there. My whole family, basically my ancestors and stuff, they're all been part of the military. That took part in, all the wars and stuff. So, you know, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It's what all of us Pakistanis, we are quite, aware of these things, how corrupt these people are and how they operate. Um, you know, um,
You see, and the real sorrow is when you, as you'll be walking in the streets of Pakistan, brother, is when you will see that individual who can only have one meal a day, or
yeah,
who is making desperate end meet, to feed his family, who live in mud
yeah,
houses and flats and have got no opportunities and no, it's all right for us. We live in these affluent countries, we can go back, but I know people actually in the UK who want to go to Pakistan, who are very, very wealthy, who want to go to Pakistan, make something better of the country by doing whatever they can, and they're warned off by these gangster politicians. Don't
yeah,
interfere in our political system. If they want to do something positive for the country, they're quickly repelled back. I know people who own, or multimillionaires, nearly billionaires, who own vast properties in central London. They want to go back and do something positive for the country. But if they get
yeah.
into the political ladder, they're warned off by these other political parties, these gangster leaders, and they send their henchmen to warn them off. This is how the system, and this is all
Uh,
perpetrated right from it's still
even
the inheritance of the
yeah.
British rule, you see.
Yeah, and even when they let Imran Khan in, obviously he didn't come in just from the votes. Someone has had to allow him to rule that 2-3 years that he ruled. They basically ran the country down to the ground, so they needed someone to sort of replenish that that image and bring in a lot of investments. As you noticed, when he came into power, a lot of people invested in Pakistan, um, and he brought in that investment. He was the go-to guy. He was running around Middle East, Europe. He was bringing in a lot of investment. He sort of replenished that image so these guys can have their second round. You know what I mean? So that's the only reason he was allowed in power in the first place. But he tried to overstep, the the limits that was set by them. That's why they quickly took him out. It didn't take them that long. A month and
Yeah,
then his government is gone.
yeah, particularly when he
Um,
made, when he said he wants to come out of the IMF. He doesn't want
yeah,
Americans, American influence to stagnate
yeah,
Pakistan. They are these Westerners. They want Pakistan to remain backward, under their
yeah,
thumb, not having any progression for the ordinary masses.
yeah.
The
So
ordinary
it's
masses, the ordinary individual has a
yeah.
right to live happily, freely, with wealth, with food, with no, with medical care, with education. They have the right, but they're not
Yeah.
being given the
It's
right.
it's a 99%. It's a 99% Muslim country, so you already know how that works. They have their eyes on us all the time. They've basically never really allowed us to stand up on our feet. They assassinated the first prime minister, Liaquat Ali Khan, and then from there on, it's been a shit show. Really, I'm sorry for the language, but there's no other way to describe it. Um, So yeah, I mean, but to be honest, yeah, I mean, if you got a bit of money, you can come and spend. You could, buy yourself some real estate and just flip a few plots here and there, make some decent money. There is opportunities. I think they're trying to motivate people to bring in the money now, because they've done so much damage. People have run away, and they know in the long term, 20, 30, 50, 60 years from now on, if they carry on the way they've been going on, land grabbing and all of that, they will eventually run out all the people that have any money left, even like middle class people. So what they're doing is they're allowing that little bracket for people to just get used to buying a few properties, plots here and there, and Parkview Estates and Barrier Town and all of these Goldberg Greens and all that. They're motivating people to spend money now. So yeah, I mean, there is opportunities. You can do a quick flips here and there, but I don't I have no trust in long term. I don't
Yeah,
know
because
what's
people
gonna
are just
happen
like
next.
you said, brother. You very clearly said that. You see, the thing with Pakistan is generally I've observed the ability or the temperament to have power. It gets to their head like I've not seen from any other race before.
Yep.
They demand they demand a level of control which is unfathomable, and this breeds endemically within the persona of the individual. You see. So,
Yep.
I mean, a fool, in essence, would invest in Pakistan. Such is
Yep.
the methodology of what I've described. What you've experienced, you've made mention of land grabbing and so forth. If there was a form of justice out there where the judiciary was free from corruption, then these issues would not be pertaining. But the indigenous figures are more concerned for the indigenous masses, those people who've got nothing to look forward to in their lives, who've got nowhere to live. These are the people whose lives have to become bettered. So this is
Yep.
what we have to expose the system, what it's true for, what it's all about. You see, if people have
But the
Andrew
thing
Tate,
is, yeah. Sorry to cut you off. The thing is, the common man now, on back in the days, it was different. I've had family members who were like staunch PMLN supporters. They're like, oh no, the share is this and that. You know what I mean? And like even they, down all the way down to the village sides, even they have sort of caught on with what's going on. Imran Khan has, mashallah, he's exposed them really badly, so badly that even the guy that serves you tea, he knows everything. He knows about Hyde Park flats. He knows about everything. He knows all the account numbers, where this transfer money, and The common man now knows. That's one thing that wasn't present before. That's definitely a change I'm seeing in people on the ground, and that's really, I would say, is going to lead to bloodshed eventually. But freedom has a price, so it's got to be
That
paid.
was my next question, brother 187. And you're live in Pakistan, and alhamdulillah, may Allah make it easy for you. The end game, what do you think the end game is? Do you think the assassination of Imran Khan, or do you think that Imran Khan will win? And then I think no matter what happens, I think he's on his third strike right now.
Yep.
Definitely on his third strike, where the West, the Americans and the West will try to get rid of him, because his links with Russia are quite powerful. He made it known that, listen, Russians have never ever done anything to my country. Is the West, meaning the Americans and the British and the Europeans, have actually destroyed and killed my people. The Russians haven't done anything bad to me. The Chinese haven't done anything bad to me. So, do you think that it's like a waiting game now and a game of chess? And
yeah,
go ahead, brother.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. It's just a waiting game, Eventually, I don't. Is looking bad for Imran Khan right now. Maybe this was just a warning shots for him. Maybe they missed on purpose. Who knows? And for them, getting rid of someone is it's really easy. They got rid of Saddam. They got rid of Gaddafi. They got rid of Dr. Morsi, who was a very educated, very religious, pious man in Egypt. They got rid of him in what, 6 days in power? All because he cut off gas supplies to Israel, who was stealing gas for like 70 years of Egypt. Energy supplies. He cut that off, and next thing you know, the next day he was hanging from a rope. So it's not that hard for them to get rid of anyone in this earth right now. They're bigger than money. They're bigger than everything. They have the ultimate power on earth. And going back to the previous discussion of the Dajjal, these guys are bigger than everything. Paper money to them is nothing. Paper money is just for us fools, to run around after. And for them, it's much bigger than that. They can just print off and just buy anything. Every man has a price. They'll throw any amount of dollars. They will just make anyone do anything.
That's the slave mentality. This is the slave mentality and the sheep mentality, which our brother Andrew Tate mentions all the time. Even before becoming a Muslim, he was telling the people that we are in this slave mentality where we're we're working 14-hour shifts, 18-hour shifts, coming home to a home that there's no relationship. The children are not obeying the parents. The wife is not obeying the husband. And it's like a free for all. It's like the Hunger Games, brother Mustafa. You ever seen the Hunger Games? Brother Mustafa, are you still with us?
It's modern day slavery, they just rebranded it, into jobs and economy and all of these big words they throw at people. Yeah, I mean, but subhanallah, our prophet have already told us these things 1400 years ago. And for us Muslims, it's not surprising. When we wake up every day, we know what's going on. And they hate that fact, and that's why they try to attack us everywhere they possibly can. By but they plan, and Allah plans, and we all know who's the best of planners. So eventually, they're eating up, their own words. However they try to attack us is failing miserably for them. And and we are ready for it. And I know there's a lot of fear and a lot of worry regarding the whole Dajjal thing and how they are corrupting. And it's good to know these things, but at the end of the day, I'm in a camp where I say that these things were already written down, so
Absolutely, I'm with that
there's no
same
surprise.
mentality. I'm with
Yeah,
that. If you read the hadiths regarding the end times, you know the script. You know what's going to happen. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
as long as you have the firm belief in Allah and the Messenger, you will be saved. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
You know, and more likely our time will be pretty soon. So, inshallah, we
yeah.
know we're
I
not
mean,
going to
what's
experience. It's our children, brother, and their
yeah,
children will maybe experience the factor where we have to educate our children. But
yeah,
Brother Mustafa made some very important points. Whereas we have to educate our children, we have
definitely.
to Islamically educate our children, and when they are at school, they are being brainwashed for what, 8 hours, 7.5 hours. They are being brainwashed with that certain type of education. So when they come home, the mother and father, or the mother would just give them the iPad or the iPhone. Then they're brainwashed for another 4 hours or 5 hours. Do you understand?
Yeah,
They only
yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
brother Mohammed, don't you think this was meant to be though? You know
What?
Brother,
how they,
the answer, you made mention about, it's already been written, but because it's already been written, and because it's formulated beautifully in the narratives within the Islamic eschatology of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the hadiths and so forth, it becomes incumbent upon us, that, as Brother Muhammad's excellent show represents, the fact that we then have to propel this to the indigenous masses. We have to make people aware. And I mean, I've sent him some WhatsApp images of Muslims and Christians, people of faith, coming together, unified, to try to stop these things occurring. So I give a great
yeah,
example of RSE, relationship
yeah,
sex education, where there's a judicial review which was initially rejected. Then, due to pressure groups brave people coming forward, looking for help in terms of people coming together as a community together to go against these representations that our children have to learn about same-sex education and the intricate details of what this involves. So
yeah,
we need to stop this whatever way we can, you see, and that
yeah.
includes unifying with people of even other
And
faith to share
I
these
would,
things.
yeah. I'm an absolutist, and I believe that Allah will make us educate people. It will make you educate 10, 15, 20 people who will go educate more 10, 15, 20. And this is how, in my opinion, this is how it was meant to be. I was meant to be standing here talking to you right now. Brother Muhammad was meant to be there hosting this stream, and you were meant to be there to be talking about this. And it's all going to Allah's plan. We are not gonna fall behind anything. We're not gonna, we're not missing out anything. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. It will happen, and it is happening beautifully according to the plan. The more they push, they will get pushed back twice. That's how it was written. The more they will come after us, the more they will push these hideous, degenerate, ideas into the people. The more they are gonna get defeated. So right now they're sort of neem garam, like what I'm saying, they haven't got to the boiling point yet. They haven't put the gun to our head and said, no, you have to learn about LGBT. It hasn't come to that point yet. This is still the starting point, that they're just testing the waters. It will probably eventually get to that point anyway in the future, but there is nothing they can do about it. At the end of the day,
It's
there's
important.
there's
Yeah, I
nothing they
totally
can do.
agree. I totally agree with that, brother. But since you're in Pakistan right now, and how long
Yeah,
have you been in Pakistan for now, brother?
about 5 days now.
5 days. What I found very interesting today, brother, when I was
Yeah,
watching the semi-final, I only watched it for about 20 minutes. The semi-final of New Zealand versus Pakistan. I was observing the crowd. I was thinking, how come there's no PTI or whatever flag there is? There's all Pakistani flags. Uh,
oh yeah, I
there's
know, right?
why if it's such a big issue in Pakistan, with this political situation, and why isn't there any open support? What
Yeah,
is it?
I
Because
was. Yeah.
go on, brother,
Sorry.
go on.
No, no. Sorry. Sorry. Go on.
So what I'm afraid of is because the Pakistanis, like the Europeans and the West now, that we're just sheep, we're just blind. We're really, we're just we're looking after ourselves and forget everybody else.
Yeah.
And have we fallen into that same type of category where we're just blinded, brother. We're on blinkers. We're like horses, just following a particular path. And
Yeah.
it's sad. Have you experienced anything since arriving in Pakistan? Any type
Uh,
of interaction with people, or are they too scared to talk about it, or what?
oh no, they're very vocal about it actually. They're very. I just want to show you downstairs. You see this whole parking lot, right? This was
Mm,
all packed. There is a screen right there. There's a huge screen, like a big cinema screen. They were playing cricket live on the screen, and it
mm.
was packed of people. Soon as the match finished, first thing they said is they started shouting slogans. Mariam ke papa chor. They won a cricket match, and
Can you
the
translate
whole
that? Can you translate it, brother?
yeah, they were playing PTI songs, and everyone started dancing, saying Imran Khan's in the bad, and it was weird because we won a cricket match and everyone is shouting PTI slogans. So
Mm.
it was a big scene. It was like it was like we were about to just go on a war or something. The whole parking lot was lit. Um, you know, um, so no, but people are really vocal about it. They're definitely
Yeah, it's
not shying
interesting,
away.
brother. I actually predicted that he will get assassinated. Somebody will try to kill him. I'm sure
Yeah,
he already mentioned that, weeks ago, months ago, that somebody would try to kill him. I actually predict now, inshallah, that there's be an explosion. I think there's be a bomb,
yeah,
and I think himself and a lot of other people will be killed and injured and hurt. And
yeah,
what's going to happen is that's going to deter the population to come up and rise. I
uh,
actually think that
yeah,
because they are going to think, okay, if the army are backing and willing to take out Imran Khan, who are we? We're just
yeah,
peasants. We're just people who are making ends meet. Coming
yeah,
over past the COVID, 2 years of COVID, and what's happened and how prices have risen. People are struggling, like Brother Mustafa said. People are struggling to make ends meet. I actually think that this is the end now
yeah.
for
What you
Imran
said
Khan.
earlier. What you said earlier, I was thinking the same thing. In the stadium, they should have at least had a picture of Bajwa with a cross on his face, or at least or something. You know what I mean? I was looking into the crowd myself. I was exactly observing the same thing that he was trying to observe. Find any PTI flags or someone going against crossing Bajwa's face or anything. But yeah, but I think those are the type of people that are just out there to enjoy themselves. There is that crowd in Pakistan that we just want to be left alone. But the vast majority, I would say 99% of the people on the ground right now, every interaction I've had in these past 5 days, and I've had a lot of them. I was a bit excited. 17 years I came back. I was just, talking to everyone, walking past, and a lot. They are all very vocal, and I think Imran Khan, he knows his time is coming, and I think he just wants to be that martyr for the people, and he knows that's the only way people are gonna rise up, and I think he's gonna be he knows this, and he's gonna be a willing martyr. I think that's what he because he's just been shot a few days ago. He's talking about coming back out on road, so I think he's had enough now. I think he's done. He's
You
gonna
see
be
the thing.
that
Sorry to
willing
cut you,
martyr.
brother. The interesting thing, brother Muhammad mentioned, which is so true. This was a strike two for him. Let's not be in any doubt whatsoever. If they can shoot him on his leg, do you think his body would have been difficult to have grasped? No, 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 no. This is a warning for him. You know, they're actually fearful if he was assassinated, there could be a total national unrest, which is what they don't want either. So the whole emphasis was just to warn him off now. Lay off, lay off. But like you said, he's reached a certain age. Maybe he may be thinking, you know, for whatever sins I may have done in my life in the past, you know, let's do something for our Creator before I meet Him, and with the hope that the most merciful will, you know, enter him into Jannah. So the whole emphasis of this is he's brave. He's taken his, you know, he's taken this shot, and he'll probably come out again. But like Brother Mohammed said, you know, it won't last. He will be taken out some way or another. So this is the methodology which, you know, this is the Dajjal system. And notice something which is of more significance. We're talking about this cricket match, which I watched as well this morning. You know, the sad thing was, you know, the close proximity of both sexes, the men and women together, jumping up and down, screaming, shouting, all right, it's a cricket match, you've enjoyed it, your country has won. But there's just an overt passion for sports, which I think is it's a Dajjal in itself. You know, because you're becoming so impassioned within it, and you're associating closely with each other. Men resonating, women imitating women, women imitating men, jumping up and down, screaming. Even hijabi sisters I've seen jumping up and down. This is not the methodology in which we behave.
I don't get I don't get the excitement, you know, because it's all scripted anyway. All sports is scripted, you know. Bookies run the show. You know, you got players with numbers on their back. You know, Pakistan had no chance. They were already out. There was a reason Netherlands defeated South Africa. You know, I've been watching cricket since childhood. You know, I know the script. You know,
look no further than the Pakistan-India matches, particularly. You see, you know, because Pakistan, you know, they've the history of the particularly over the last decade, in which India has been rampant with money. So they've bought Pakistanis essentially, you know, upside down. And when they deliberately throw matches, let's be on no doubt whatsoever, all their main cricketers, you know, they've all been, highlighted in court proceedings that they're all corrupt, each and every single one of them, from their top players right down to their bottom. So for people who become infatuated by the sports, particularly to the extent that you go berserk, then that is in itself a Dajjal system. You know, just watching the soccer matches, for example, I've noticed something very interesting, which is, you know, they always make the one-eyed sign of, it seems like an upside down heart sign of love, but actually it's a eulogy of the one eye to the Dajjal. Yeah. This is, you know, if you notice this, and this is coming from this comes from all footballers appear to do this. Very, very strange.
They're mocking us.
They're mocking us, yeah, you stupid fools. You're supplementing us whilst we're leading you astray. And the whole purpose of all these things is one thing: to dissuade mankind from Allah, to push mankind away from Allah's rights on the man. It's glorification to Allah.
It's true you say that, brother. And I really want to end on this particular Qatar situation. Whereas the Western governments have threatened Qatar, saying that basically also, I think it's Iran, that we should kick out Iran and put Ukraine as the team to kick out Iran regarding the hijab law. And also the same-sex relationships, which Qatar basically bans. And you can get fines and prison sentences up to 7 years, and also death penalty by stoning for having the same-sex relationship. And it's very interesting that the chief of Qatar, the World Cup, Nasser al-Khattaar, insists that the government will not change its laws on homosexuality because it's part of their culture, meaning that they don't want homosexuality and same-sex relationships taking place in Qatar, and people should respect their culture. What's your take on that? Because if we come to the UK, brother Mustafa, this is very important. We had to be a British citizen. You had to learn the British way of life. What was it, brother? You had to before you be entered into the UK, you had to kind of like explain what are the laws and cultures of Britain.
Yeah,
I'm
you have
sure
to
there was a
when a person comes for the visa requirements, you have to take an oath by the Queen before her passing away, and you have to like solemnly swear you will adhere to the laws and regulations of this country. So it's like a manifestation of exemplifying yourself to what they require of you in that way and in that format. And this
I'm sure
Qatar.
there was a test, brother. There was a test also. I'm sure there was a test that the people had to do to understand how much they knew
British history.
about British history and culture.
Yeah.
What are the like?
Life in the
Yeah, those
UK
are
or
the visa
something.
entry requirements, aren't they? This is what they seek to, impose. You were making a point which has slipped my mind, which I wanted to elaborate on, in regards to, Qatar. Now, what will happen eventually, you see, this relentless theme that, okay, like for example, you mentioned about Qatar, the one of the World Cup organizers saying, well, this is part of our laws and regulations, and we're very stringent upon there. But it's interesting that Peter Satchell, who is the head of an organization called Stone, which looks after LGBTQ rights, he was allowed into Qatar to protest. This is in the news. You can check it out on Google. He was allowed to protest openly and was protected by the Qatari authorities. He recently went. He recently went to Qatar. Peter Stone, the most famous LGBTQ activist, and he went there. He was protected by them. So what they're doing, they're chipping away at them. So now you're buying soccer clubs in the UK. Now there's a lady called Stavely. She's one of the co-financiers who bought Newcastle United Football Club. She's quite a big feminist as well. So how it's working is they're going to chip away. You can't change the overall structure of these countries within a few moments, but you chip away at them. So they're chipping away at them. So whilst they're investing millions and millions into the British economy by buying soccer clubs, Britain's government will say as a retort, we're allowing you to, buy our institutions. You in turn have to listen to us in terms of what policies you need for your indigenous masses, i.e., the rights of supposed rights of the feminist movement. You have to accentuate the women's rights so that they become like our women become topless and braless. You have to become like us to allow LGBTQ activities to take place. So here we're having a chipping away at the system, and this is how they're going to erode it. So this threat, that you're going to be replaced, Iran will be replaced by Ukraine, is just chipping away at them in every single moment, and eventually they will succumb. They will succumb.
It's sad, brother. It's really sad. Look at the laws they have in Qatar, like in society, like same-sex relationships, like kissing, hugging, and so forth. It's forbidden in Qatar. Man, imagine that if that was here in the UK, brother. Just imagine for a second, brothers and sisters, if this happened here, what would happen to society? Would it make it better or worse? So same-sex relationships are illegal in Qatar, like openly kissing and holding hands and so forth like that is forbidden. Alcohol is only restricted in certain areas. It's only restricted in certain areas. So you can't go out in public and get drunk and get puke up everywhere. You know how it's here, brother Mustafa 187. We know what's it like here Friday night, Saturday night. We know what's it like. So alcohol is restricted only in public places. You can't drink alcohol. Okay. So third one is that strict laws on public on behavior like swearing. So you can't swear in public. Imagine that here in the UK. What a huge difference that would have here in the UK if these three things would be implemented here in the UK. And unfortunately, the Western world is criticizing Qatar for having these laws that you can't have same-sex relationships, you can't have alcohol in public, and you can't swear in public. What kind of madness is this?
I do want to make a point on that. The power they have in the media and the way they try to sort of let down, people saying, how powerful they are and how strong they are, how they run things around. They only run things to a certain degree, but on the ground, and the people they are powerless. There isn't anything they can do to the masses. So if they might go, you might have Muslims that say, oh, Qatar is eventually gonna give in, and they're all gonna be wearing rainbow jubbas and that. You've got those, you got that crowd as well. But then at the same time, I've transitioned flights through Qatar, and I've had a little time to roam around and see how things are on the ground, and what the media is telling us and how they're letting us down, giving us depression, making us think too much into things. They actually don't really have that kind of power, and that's why they're frustrated, and that's why they're bashing Qatar on news 24/7. It's like a crybaby just crying, oh, why didn't you let me, have my way, sort of thing.
I think that's very important, brother. 187. I think the fact that Qatar has a huge oil reserves. Financially, they're secure. I think this is why Pakistan is suffering right now, because of the. I think if Pakistan had oil reserves and other gas and electric, I think Imran Khan would have been out the way long time ago. Go on, brother. Go on.
You see, just one thing about Qatar, you see how the Western governments, for example, portray the country as we've seen. You see, at the same time, there are some things that the Qataris do which are totally unacceptable, like the way they treat their foreign workers, the mass labor that they put them through, extortion of these, essentially, of these poor laborers which come from the Indian subcontinent, lack of human rights, and so many things which go on against, as I've mentioned, immigrants who work in Qatar. So they augment that by showing that, look, it's not just intolerant towards people of a different sexual disposition, or it's not just intolerant towards women's rights, which they want to elongate to an extent that they subdue men. Rather, they also do acts which are against humanity. Like calling
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree,
But
because I
you
was.
see, yeah. So what that then, what you call legitimizes their other points, you see, in order to show the intolerance of such a system in place, and hence they therefore legitimize this particular point. So it's a conglomerate of associating certain or different entities to show that this is a intolerant thing, whereas the same thing that they're doing in the world in general, where we live in the West, where, for example, which I haven't really mentioned in today's show, which is in addition to RSE education, they're also implementing about Black history as well, to show. This will be on the national curriculum, to show that, well, if it was, we need to rewrite history because it was terrible what happened to Black people, and we are to blame for essentially what has happened. But at the same time, we also will ordain RSE as well. You see, the game is to legitimize something which was, which is universally abhorrent, to enslave someone due to the color of their skin or due to their ethnicity, and at the same time inculcate entity or organizations or entities or races or these gender issues to the same equivocation of essentially that, because if you're discriminated against because of the color of your skin, similarly it's unacceptable to speak up against LGBTQ, for example. So they've co-associated that, hence they have put this within the national curriculum so that you learn about Black history simultaneous to same-sex education as well, legitimizing the abhorrent with the unacceptable, but to show that these two entities, they have a value within our societies. You see how they're doing that methodically, and I've spoken about this in regards to the hadiths as well. Some people can go back to the show and observe that as well. It's not for no reason that they're propelling Black history into the national curriculum. It's to inculcate these Black people to fully feel immersed within society in regards to these end time scenarios which will take place, in regards to these eschatological battles between Muslims and Christians who will be united, a group of Christians against these anti-God forces in the prelude to the coming of Isa alayhi salam. So you can see how they're going to educate the youth, You see that this is how it's totally acceptable to be black and gay, for example, because we're learning these things simultaneously at the same time. This is why they want to control black people. They think they can easily control and manipulate their minds, but they're going to give them the carrot at the moment to do that. But with a nasty, the film Trading Places, Brother Muhammad, when that guy makes that comment, do you honestly think we would have given all our wealth to, and they refer to him with the N-word? That is what they've got in plan. So black people think that they're fully immersed in society in every way, shape, or form. They've been given everything. They've been propelled, but they're being done for the reason that they're going to be put into the battlefield to fight and lose their lives for representation of this anti-God system. That's the end game, and that is what we see in that Trading Places bit. You understand what I mean? When the two wealthy bank investment, when they make that particular comment, that do you honestly think we would give our entire organization to, and they use the N-word? That is in effect showing what we intend to do is to put them forward in the battlefield to represent us and our values to fight against the Muslims. So it will be those people who will die and not our own real bloodline of white people. You understand, brother? That is the game. That is what all the hadiths is racing towards. That is why the mixed race people will fight against the Muslims, and that's why they're trying to crush racism in order for this to actually occur. Our hadiths have the answer. This is why they're trying to crush racism. This is why if you watch the TV now, you will see every black person, on TV advertisements. They're trying to break down those barriers of racism for this pernicious game that they've got going ahead in terms of these end-time games.
True, okay. Subhanallah. It's very, very interesting, brother. Subhanallah. We've got to wrap it up pretty soon. It's, 10:15 now.
I just
brother,
wanted to say, I'm in Pakistan right now, and I got the M4 with 2 extra clips, so they can come.
So, brother, what time is it there now in Pakistan?
So right now is 3 o'clock in the night.
So, are you still jet lagged, or are you kind of your body's clock's changed now, or are you still like feeling it?
No, I've had 2 days of long sleeps. So yeah, I mean, I'm still sleeping like a lot longer than I usually do, which is a bit weird, but yeah, I've recovered, alhamdulillah. So
that's good, great to hear, mashallah. Stay safe, bro, because I love to get you on another show where something's kicking off, like, or some type of protest or something.
Yeah,
maybe we could do
they are planning to block off the city, I believe, but I'm not sure how big of an event is going to be. The media, they hype up a lot of things. And for us, my telly in London is set on ARY digital. You know what I'm saying? And it's always like, oh, this many people are, and we are thinking, oh, it's kicking off. But when you come here, it's like everyone's just chilling. They're enjoying their tea. So yeah, definitely. If anything kicks off, I'll definitely tune in. Might even give live shots.
Yeah, definitely, brother. Yeah. Because of course, what we see here in the UK, we see live footage, and but then the media can be quite negative towards Imran Khan. I definitely see the Western media being very negative towards Imran Khan. They always seem to be on his case, you've done, but they never speak about the other family. Because they're here in the UK, in London, they are Speaker's Corner. They're living in multi-million-pound apartments and living it up, while Imran Khan's there in hospital with his leg, all bandaged up. And I definitely fear for his life. I definitely think that when he was speaking on the bed, when he had his blue hospital attire on, I definitely can see by his face and his reaction that he's given up, meaning that he has come to a conclusion, like Brother Mustafa said, that it's time to basically be prepared.
He's ready to go. Yeah, he's gonna be willful martyr, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't understand one thing about him, why he's giving interviews to the Western outlets, and you see them, with a smug face and sort of smirking at him when he's explaining everything to them. And I don't understand why he's even wasting his time with
Thing
these
is, brother, I
people.
mean, the reason why he's got to have this outlet somehow or another. I know he was going to appear on one of George Galloway's YouTube shows, which he was going to have post his, demise from power. So he's trying to just make people aware of what actually is happening and the, supposed rhetoric against the US in particular. And one thing of real interest I found was that none of these cricket, watching the World Cup, obviously Imran Khan was a very famous cricketer. No one's mentioned, his shooting. No one is, no one from no one from amongst the Pakistani commentators or, the people have mentioned anything about his shooting, which was quite shocking. I mean, he's a world famous cricketer.
It's interesting you say that, because I was watching it. They didn't mention the World Cup final, and they mentioned Imran Khan being the captain, and that was it. But what I find what you mentioned there, Brother Mustafa, why I think he comes on Western media is because sometimes when he speaks in his own language, the Western media, the information gets lost in translation. So he has a beautiful opportunity to actually speak, and he speaks very good English. And I think he takes the opportunity to come on Western media to speak in English to inform the masses that what you've probably been told and lost in translation is not the situation. So maybe he's using it in a beneficial way to inform the Western media to actually tell them what's actually taking place. And I actually see him in the role of Andrew Tate and vice versa. What's your take on that, brothers?
So can you repeat that, brother, once more? I didn't hear it clearly.
I can see the similar information that he's giving is same as like Andrew Tate, because like Imran Khan, and Andrew Tate, they lived a million man kind of reality. They had the fast cars, they had the women, and now they've kind of submitted themselves to Allah and Islam, and they are sending the message out that the Western powers are the ones who are destroying the world.
Yeah, I think you're dead right, brother. I mean, these are people who are brave, and that latter point, an internal inclination to speak out against these, the powers that be and how they manipulate things, and to come out and do so despite having fear of their own life shows a strength of character which Allah has bestowed upon them. So, we've got to give particular, reverence to brothers like Andrew Tate, and the influence that he carries. He's a tremendous threat in particular, you see. He's the third most Googled person on earth with a huge youth fan base as well. And his influence in becoming Muslim is tremendous. We can't really appreciate that, you see. We can't appreciate it, but inshallah, in due course, we don't know how many, millions of people he could have influenced as a result of his conversion. So this is something which is they're an absolute nightmare. This is a disaster for the powers that be, and they've got to now try to limit him in whichever way they can, and they will, and he knows this. And the thing is, Andrew Tate, and if anyone is doubtful of what we have spoken about on this show, Andrew Tate, who was a non-Muslim, who formulated these experiential opinions and experiential understandings, which were in total conformity with some of the points that we've made on this show, which will show to all of us that this is a reality. We're not living in cloud cuckoo land. People are not living in cloud cuckoo land. This is the reality of everything. And we have to, as individuals who, Allah will question us on the Day of Judgment, to be sure. Did you speak out against this, this insipid situation which is developing, in the world, contrary to what I revealed? Did you have the strength of character to do something to try to stop it? This is what it's all about. And this is why these people have come to the fore to do so.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Brother 187, what's your take? Because, sorry, Brother Mustafa, I'm going to come back to you because Andrew Tate already made so many different clips on YouTube, on social media saying that, listen, I'm not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to kill myself, but they are going to kill me. He's already said it clearly that they will kill him. And he mentioned that he has about 10 people in his security. They all carry weapons. He carries a weapon himself. His brother carries a weapon. And I definitely think that they will try to, the third strike.
You see, his whole idea is that at least if as many people as possible are aware of this attempt on him or what he's fearful of. So if he does meet an unexpected end, then everyone will know for sure that who will be behind it. But when we say again, on his shows, he's refused to name who they, in quotation marks, are. Because if he exposes them immediately, he will be a goner for sure. Notice his reticence in saying who these individuals were. Even he said it at the beginning of one of his recent interviews that I'm not going to name them because he was absolutely sure, he could become a target. And he does make mention. He says, doesn't matter how much security I have, doesn't matter who's there around me keeping an eye. If they want me, they will get me.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is the biggest danger. And for us on these shows who are inconsequential, the more viewers that we have, if we were to run in the hundreds of thousands of a live stream as such, this will alert them. Let's have no doubt about this ever. We may be inconsequential. We've only having maybe 15, 20 people listening on in the stream. But if this became, a mass stream where people will find out, wow, what these guys are saying are bang on. And if this really grows and we have a voice, don't think for 1 second, just like Mohammed Hijab is experiencing now, with the way this, they're all piling up on him from the national media and so forth, they will come after us as well. Of that, have no doubt whatsoever.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just want to end on a positive note regarding the death of the Dajjal. So we've got to understand that everything is written for us in authentic narrations from the Prophet ﷺ. So this is why we shouldn't fear, but we should know what the reality is. But we shouldn't really fear the reality because we have the truth. So we have Islam, we have the Hadiths. So Brother Mustafa, I just want to let the audience know that the Dajjal will die. And the person who will kill him will be Isa ibn Maryam. So it's very interesting where this hadith in Sahih Muslim mentions that then Allah will send Isa ibn Maryam, who looks like one of the companions, like Urwa ibn Masud. And Isa ibn Maryam will pursue the Dajjal and kill him. So alhamdulillah, the scripture is already written for us, like Brother 187, mashallah, mentioned before. But alhamdulillah, this is one of the beauties of Islam. It tells you the Hudayfa ibn Yaman used to ask the bad all the time about what if this and what if that, and the Prophet used to give him the answer. And Islam is such a beautiful religion. It tells you the evils, it tells you how to stay away from the evils, and also the outcomes of the evils. Brother Mustafa, what's your take on my final couple of statements?
Yeah, absolutely, brother. I mean, this all essentially it's exemplified in the sayings and the examples set forth by Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, in the end, the victory will be for those who are the believers. But we are living in a period of history where we're currently at, in which this encircled trap, which is being set for this very setting of the coming of the Dajjal, the metaphorical system which is being set in his glorification, is where we as individuals living today in 2022 have to stand up and be counted.
It's very, very interesting. Mashallah, it's very interesting, brother. I actually think the fact that a lot of the Christian evangelists actually, lick up, the word lick up, maybe suck up to the Jewish Zionists because they want to link arms together. They want to kind of push the end times closer. And we experience that, definitely can see that clearly on social media. We got a question here, Brother Mustafa. I don't know. This question is kind of like off topic regarding the Halloween situation. I think Brother Shamsi on his channel has explained this particular Halloween in Saudi Arabia. This was just maybe a handful of people, not a huge amount of people who actually did that. And we don't know who they were because they're wearing masks and stuff. It could have been, again, a social media thing or a Western thing to kind of like unstabilize Saudi Arabia. So we really don't know the situation. But Brother Shamsi has done a fantastic video clip about this. So I definitely recommend to go on his YouTube channel and watch it. So hopefully that answers the question. Brother Mustafa, final thoughts from you from today's show before we wrap it up, because it's gone over 2 hours. And
just like to thank Brother Mohammed for giving me one small opportunity to elaborate on some of these issues, which require for people just to study a little bit upon Islamic eschatology. You can even delve a little bit into Christian eschatology as well, but it will be supplemented and augmented by the Islamic narrative, because we've got the hadiths which are spot on in terms of what this setting will be. And hence, it's incumbent upon Christians as well. Very, very necessary for Christians to come on board with us as well, because they are also expecting the return of Isa alayhi salam. Half the world's population are Muslims and Christians. So they once, because I thought, this is my experience, whenever I speak to Christians about these topics, it really interests them. And they become really, because they become curious, you know, about when we explained what the points that we've raised in the show to them in relation to these times. It really, really interests them. Hence, the hadiths which make mention there will be a pact of unity between the Muslims and Christians in relation to, you know, to repelling the Dajjal forces. We can see this maneuvering as well, you see. So
definitely.
Christians are more inclined. Don't forget, in the Quran, it does tell us in Surah 5, verse 82, they're the nearest to you in love, because amongst them there are priests and monks, and that they are not arrogant. That's why you see mainly Christians who become Muslims.
Absolutely.
So we have to unify people who have this commonality, and where we have our differences, this is why we have our dawah platforms in which we can have discussions upon the persona of Isa alayhi salam. Who was he? Who was the historical Jesus? Did he go around claiming he was God 2,000 years ago? We go into depth upon these details as well. That will then bring them onto board in terms of Deen al-Islam. So these are some of the points that we've discussed in the show. It's a vast topic. All we've done is touched upon some of the topic, or some of these issues. For Muslims in the audience concerned, these conclusions that we're making, they're all augmented in the hadith. It's testifiable, it's observable, what's happening. The hadiths are spot on. It's all rushing towards the coming of this anti-God system in place, and every one of us is going to be affected.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, brother. This is why I really wanted some non-Muslims to come up and join our stream and, you know, contribute towards this particular topic, you know, the end game. And I really appreciate you joining me again, mashallah, for sticking around for 2 hours. And maybe we can do another show in the future, inshallah, and discuss, you know, a bit more regarding the end game. And Andrew Tate is a, mashallah, very interesting character. And I was listening to his lecture today, talking about the 3 strikes and about his death. Definitely, you know, I think he's a marked person. And yeah, they definitely will try to kind of like give him the strike 3 and get him out the scene, because I think his conversion to Islam, I think a lot of the young men and women will maybe understand his path and maybe accept Islam, inshallah. Yeah, so brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully look out for another podcast, hopefully towards this weekend. I am planning to go to Speaker's Corner this Sunday. Brother Mustafa, are you close to Speaker's Corner? What's your availability?
Yeah, I'm not very far from there. I used to go there historically in the past, but certain situations have arisen which don't allow me to go now. But
Okay.
alhamdulillah, I mean, our good brother Nazam is also a regular attendee, although he won't be there this week. So it's always a place to go. But, you know, the level of conversation usually you have with, you know, atheists or perhaps, you know, Christians in particular, you know, it's like gutter type of conversations. You very rarely have a meaningful discussions with individuals who really are a bit lost, particularly you know, on the side of Christians, and these arguments just become repetitive. They're not prepared to take in the points which we address in terms of the difference we have and the responses we give to them, it just simply goes over their head. So it's repetitive in that sense, unless you're fortunate enough to get perhaps a tourist who is just going in the park on perhaps a nice day, observing what the institution of Speaker's Corner is like. And if you're fortunate enough, if he's got an opinion, whether he's a Christian or so forth, and he's reasonably minded, these are the individuals you should try to speak to try to get a good conversation going. And these are the people, this is why the people who do dawah and have their dawah channels, they go there for that purpose, to have good, solid conversations with reasonable minded people, whether you're atheist or if you're Christians or whatever belief that you may have, to convince of the finality and the truth of Al-Islam. And Brother Mohammed is doing his little bit as well on his channel here. So again, we'd encourage people to please subscribe to the channel and tell others about it. If you've enjoyed this particular discussion that we've had, we've got other discussions in the pipeline. We want to have shows where we invite Christian people on to discuss issues in relation to Muslim and Christian views on God, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to understand where we have our differences, where we have our commonalities, so your knowledge will grow, so you're able to impart Islam confidently to the masses in general. So this is the whole basis of these shows, to let the people know the reality. If you're unsure of something, these are opportunities to come on the show, to ask questions, and to learn from people who have got the knowledge to impart to you, because Islam is the truth. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. We haven't been blinded by the fact we live in this country, and we can, in the UK, for example, we can do whatever we want and lead all our luxuries. Despite that, we will never have that internal happiness. That only comes in the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. We've got another panelist joining us now. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you want to ask Mustafa some questions? I saw something in the chat. If you want to ask him,
Yes,
feel free.
mashallah, very interesting topics that you've been discussing. Alhamdulillah, very interesting show, I must say. Yeah, I have a question for Brother Mustafa. That, what do you really think about the celebration of Halloween in Saudi this year?
Yes, it's just endemic of how the slow methodology which is being implied even in traditional Muslim countries to introduce things which have got no basis in religion, and in fact are entities involved with on the dark side, like Halloween, the history of Halloween, how that comes about, delving in the art, in the black magic and such and so forth. And this is how Halloween has inculcated and other such events. I mean, it's not just Halloween. I saw a really quite pathetic video some time back of a famous Western pop artist who went to Saudi Arabia to have a concert. And the image I saw, where the barricades were to allow the public in, you had Muslim men wearing jubbas, the long Islamic dress code. And they were running towards the stadium where this woman was singing. It was the most, in the land of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Islam manifestly spread, you had these Muslims who were running towards the stadium in their jubbas. It was a pathetic scene to behold. So the issue of specifically about Halloween in Saudi Arabia, this is endemic of spreading all types of anti-God sentiment and slowly ebbing into that system, you see, to normalize these things. So Halloween would be one such entity to celebrate, so people will say, oh, what's the harm in having a bit of, trick or treat, or, but it's historically it's based upon paganism and entities towards witchcraft and so forth. So once you inculcate this within mainstream society, it then pushes away the core fundamental values for what you stand for. And this is what's happened, unfortunately, in this country. In this country, the UK, historically, going back 150, 200 years ago, interest dealings were banned in Europe. Christians fought against the imposition of the Zionist infiltration of the economies to implement interest dealings, but Christians fought against that before they were usurped by this esoteric agenda which took place. And look where they are now. every type of ungodliness has become quite very, very prevalent in every way, shape, or form. So the moment you allow such institutions to develop within the structure of your, your country, wherever you may be, whatever Muslim country, in this case Saudi, it will ebb away at the very structure of the Islamic narrative, you see. And this is where the Dajjal system will spread like a vice everywhere. It will initially start here in these Western countries, and due to their influence and their perceived dominance, they will spread it. You look at a country like Pakistan, for example. Its main products of sale recently have been things such as paint. Paint is very popular in Pakistan. Now, what you observe over there is that the number one paint brand rather that they have, I forgot the name of. I think it's called Crown Paints, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact name, but the painting that they show is one of the rainbow, and we know the rainbow is the emblem of the LGBTQ. They've hijacked the emblem. You can see it on NHS, ambulances or wherever you go. They're propelling it in every way, shape, and they come into even the Muslim countries, and without coming out and saying it in a particularly blatant way, they're giving their little images. We're painting it we're painting the, a major, economic facilitation in Pakistan. We're painting it in the rainbow color, which is identifying to the LGBTQ. Now in Pakistan, they are going to introduce, rights for LGBTQ. This is going to be proposed. It's already happening in other countries, slowly ebbing away. So that's the answer to your question. It's an elongated one. So the issue of the Halloween is to ebb away and to enforce their structures and their institutions within the Muslim countries and in the world generally.
I know what you just mentioned about LGBT, and it's already started in Pakistan. They already, I think, passed the bill already. And this government, I think this is why I was reading 2-3 weeks ago, and there was a big hoo-ha in Pakistan that why are we passing this bill? But I think it's so normalized in Pakistan now. Everyone is just so accepting of this.
It's not so much an accepting, sister. What can the indigenous person do? Now, it's coming to a stage, you see, where people I'll tell you how this worked. It's not for no coincidence that someone like Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, came to the UK to pay homage to his master, the Queen, who passed away. Okay, at the same time, having a begging bowl hat out, begging them to please, give us money so we can help our, the people who suffered as a result of the flood victims of the recent flood. So they will say, okay, we will allow you to make appeals for donations, and which is very prevalent in the UK. If you see TV advertisements, even in soccer matches here in the UK, they're making appeals for the Pakistani flood matches during matches. That reaches a huge amount of audience. So what happens in turn? They say, okay, we're helping you financially. You have to inculcate policies that we want you to do. And that would include LGBTQ, you see. So it works. We will continue to finance you. You will. So, for example, if you were to donate towards the Pakistani flood victims, majority of the money won't even get to the victims. They're very meticulous at pocketing in the money themselves. This is endemic within lots of Muslim countries, but particularly Pakistan. So whatever little that will go to them, in effect, then they will have to adapt their policies according to those who are helping them financially. So in which case, he comes to the UK with his begging bowl, which I call like a begging hat, to ask for help for these supposed victims, knowing full well that he will pocket the majority of the money, or just like his brother has done, having untold property here in the UK, in central London, where they own so much wealthy properties, and which they've looted from their own people. So by that method, then you see, they can spread their corruption, and that is the method. So they will say, the British government will say, because don't forget the Queen who's supposed to be the defender of the Christian faith, whose ceremony of her death was shrouded in, eulogies of biblical verses. If you saw her, the ceremony taking place within the church of, when she passed away, this is the same person who's supposed to be the defender of the faith who passed and signed away the same-sex LGBTQ bill. This is the same Queen we're talking about. So they're passing it and making it all legal in this country, and then those who are under their influence, they will do so. So now you know exactly where this LGBTQ push has come from. I know personally one politician who was, check this out, this is not me making anything up, he was a senior member of Tony Blair's government who advised actually him not to partake in the Iraq war. He even now actively is in service where he goes with women from the Indian subcontinent and propels and funds feminist movements in the Indian subcontinent. He's even working actively now. I won't mention his name, but you can check him on Google. He was the first aide to Tony Blair's government. And I'll tell you, his surname is Powell, Powell.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so this guy over here, who still appears in political programs here in the UK from time to time, a senior bureaucrat, because you've got to understand these governmental individuals like prime ministers, home secretaries, foreign secretaries, everything they say or do is coming from in the background by these bureaucrats. They're the ones who implement and along with, of course, heavy industrialists and people with influence, in particularly money and bankers, they decide what these policies are. And as I was mentioning to Brother Mohammed earlier, they become so bored with the wealth and with everything you can possibly have that then they delve into something else to satisfy the inner inclinations of the human soul. So when they go into the supernatural, and this is where they meet up in these secret organizations. This is why I'm encouraging people, watch in the very famous film. Is quite unfortunately rampant with a bit of nudity. It's called Eyes Wide Shut, featuring Tom Cruise. It just shows what these people in power get up to behind closed doors, what they delve into and who they pay homage to. You should watch these programs, The Scars of Dracula, how these systems all work, and how they sell their souls to Shaitan in order to propel humanity. Because it comes from the top, you see. Everything comes from the top. Corruption, control of the masses, it all comes. And these are the people who sold their souls out, particularly now, you see. These very values and very essences of humanity have fallen as a result of their actions. These are those who have sold their souls to Shaitan. These are...
I think I've seen the documentary on YouTube, and it was a top person, I think, in somewhere in USA, and he was describing all this, how this actually happens. It happens on the higher level of name it bureaucrats or whatever. And so I think I have watched that video. Sorry, it's a whole documentary. I can't think of a name right now, but there is a documentary on YouTube.
Another brilliant one I would suggest people watch is an interview with a rabbi named of A.B. Finkelstein. It was on YouTube. I watched it thoroughly many times. I'm not sure if it's available now. I rather doubt it. But you can check him out on YouTube. A.B.E. and the surname is Finkelstein. Finkleestein. Everything that I've been speaking about recently on Brother Mohammed shows in depth, and if people have been paying attention, or if you haven't had the opportunity to watch so, then you can observe it by watching the show back again and watching an interview that A.B. Finkelstein, a Jewish rabbi, has with an American Christian evangelist in a Christian TV show in the US. This interview took place about 15, 16 years ago, in which he describes everything that I've made mention, how they've plotted and planned everything in advance, and all the points that I've made mention in detail. He makes mention of that, how they control the system in place, how they've made the lovers of Isa alayhi salam fight against each other, whilst they've controlled the Middle East, tormented the Middle East. Now they're doing the same thing in Ukraine, making Christians fight against each other in Russia and in Ukraine as a result of these eschatological matters which are about to ensue, you see, to divide the Muslims and the Christians, because we have that commonality of the return of Isa alayhi salam, and they want to spread their hegemony.
Very valid point there.
Alhamdulillah, we
Thank you
got.
so much, brother, for answering such a thorough
Jazakallah, I appreciate
answer.
your
Thank you.
questions, sister.
No,
Very
Thank
kind
you.
of you too.
Thank you. Take
Jazakallah.
care. Allah Hafiz, everyone.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
And
alaikum.
greetings to our
Alaikum
dear
assalam.
brother Kenny. Assalamu alaikum, Kenny.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, brothers?
Alhamdulillah, nice to have you, brother Kenny. We're just talking about you a couple about 45 minutes ago regarding your book. This is our brother Kenny Boma joining us right now. He's got an amazing book which you can get on Amazon. It's called Your Right to Self-Identify and My Right to Disagree. Brother Kenny, I don't know how much you've heard of the show so far. How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. I was actually listening. I just finished an interview with another brother on his channel, and but I was listening to you brothers before that, and obviously the brother Mustafa has I love listening to him speak because he has a lot of knowledge about what he's talking about, and I did wind up watching The Omen a number of weeks back. I haven't watched the other two movies yet. I just simply because of time, and it slipped my mind. But I'm gonna make a point to watch those other two movies to extract what you're talking about from what I see there. But what the brother is saying is right on point. I mean, it's these are the signs of the time, and matter of fact, we need to consider the time and be conscious of it, because we may not see the coming of these things in our lifetime, but we're obviously seeing everything being put in place, and there's some dastardly deeds being plotted and planned consistently. I mean, they're always plotting and planning. They don't sleep on it. And so I haven't heard everything the brother's been saying in the last 30 minutes or 45 minutes or so, but what I heard before that was right on point. I'm sure he's been given more knowledge about it since then. So may Allah accept his efforts and his intentions.
I mean, Jazakallah, it's very kind of you to say so, brother Kenny. And I do know for a fact that when I spoke about these initial points to brother Mohammed, there was somewhat, I wouldn't say reluctance, but somewhat of, a lot of this information which I'm imparting, which people are not privy to. But he's taken the good effort of watching these movies and seeing, and now he's coming on board. I mean, I would say that with the brother there, he's understanding the game at hand, and some of the points that I'm making, all in reference to Islamic eschatology in relation to these events which are occurring. And the brothers also led me to believe, which, having mentioned to you previously, the fear of some reaction to your book, which has become a manifest. I've been led to believe that's very disconcerting.
Yeah.
Recently had brother Andrew Tate, who has also mentioned this, and as we know, he's been a big fish which has ended up in the Islamic net. So even he's recently been had interviews explaining his fear of exposing what the system is all about. And he's done two recent interviews. One was just a couple of days ago, in which he has come out blatantly to say that he's in fear of his life, and that an attempt can be made at any time. And he went out of his way to tell everybody he would never take his own life under any circumstances, to let people know if he does meet an untimely end, then it will be as a result of these entities. Now, he was reluctant even to say who they are, because the moment you use the word they, then they will come after him like a ton of bricks. Let's not have any doubt about this whatsoever. They will come on him a ton of... I've made mention, which you can just do a little research when you get some time, of an individual by the name of Michael Gove, Gove, an eminent, the most I would hasten to say the most influential British politician since the late British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who died who was Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990. This guy has been like a shadowy figure over the last 15 years in British policy making, who is an open Zionist, and who was an education minister when they propelled RSE, which is same-sex education within the British format. Out of fascination, he's been given a position within the government of Rishi Sunak, the newly elected Hindu Prime Minister of Britain. So, I mean, this is something else which I can mention in terms of the Hindutva, the RSS organization, which is infiltrating Britain at the same proxy that this particular individual has attained prime ministership. Anyway, he's imposed Michael Gove with a senior ministerial role as well within the UK government. This is the esoteric figure who's behind the scenes of a lot of this, the setup which is being done in terms of the ungodly structure which is being now manifestly presented. So that's one person for you just to bear it in mind. Michael Gove, Gove.
I'll look into it. What it boils down to, brother, is that a lot of people are just caught up with living life and get caught up with paying bills and raising their families and so forth, and they don't think on another level about these types of things. But these are things that we should be conscious of. And so it does take people like yourself, and I try to be that type of person as well, as try to get people to think outside of the box and to look at the bigger picture. And if you start looking, it's not a matter of being like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but we can rely upon the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the signs before the day of judgment, and obviously what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, and put those things to work. I mean, we should be conscious of what's going on in and around us, knowing that this life is a test, and that there's some dark forces at work, and it's a constant plotting and planning of Iblis trying to mislead people and lead them astray. And a couple of points that you made about Andrew Tate being in fear of his life. I have the debate coming up next weekend. And one of the things that I am concerned about, even my wife brought up, is that, when you're saying things that are against the grain of the social constructs that are in place that they're building, you start speaking against that from a righteous position, in that you're trying to speak against the evils of this world when it boils down to it, and you're perceived as being the one who's in the wrong. So what the people who are doing the wrong are looked upon as being the people that are doing right, and the people who are actually in the right speaking against the people who are doing wrong are perceived as the ones who are the evildoers. So it is a means to it should cause people to be naturally concerned when the people who are trying to do right are being attacked for trying to do right. And me and my wife did discuss, I don't know what kind of security they'll have there, but I'm a bit concerned about it. And I've actually considered my wife not being there because I suspect there'll be mostly atheists there. And I know from the last DebateCon last year, there were some so-called transgender people there that are certainly not going to be pleased with the book that I wrote and so forth. But we have to be willing to look outside of the box and look at these signs and consider things that are being put in place. As a matter of fact, I made a post on social media earlier today or last night or whenever it was, on Twitter and on Facebook, about the fact that I come across this article that says something about 35 Brother Mohammed might have seen it, 35 celebrities that you didn't know were gay. And so I'm like, wow, they're promoting these things that Allah clearly speaks against in Islam, and we see the same thing in the Bible, the condemnation of these certain things being condemned by our God, our Creator, and yet they're being promoted in the world as though it's not a problem. Well, it is a problem because it's leading people to the fire. It's leading people astray. It's making these negative things that were, decades ago that were done in the shadows. Now they're being brought out into the open, and it's being publicized, and it's being celebrated, and parades are being organized, and we're seeing it. I seen an article earlier about the elections here in the United States. We're at the midway point, and I've seen an article saying that the LGBTQ community has made history with the election results and so forth. So obviously there's some so-called transgender people that have been nominated as some political officials of some kind. I don't know who these people are. I didn't read into the article any more than that because I had to get ready for that interview. But these things are being celebrated, and they wouldn't be celebrated if there wasn't people plotting and planning to put them in place to begin with. So we got to consider these sources, and the man that the brother just mentioned, I'm going to look into him and see what he's all about as well. But we need to be conscious of these things. This is the world that we live in, and we need to be mindful of what's transpiring around us, what the kids are being taught, what is being put in place on a social level that is moving the masses, and because that's what it boils down to. They're literally moving the masses and moving them in one direction or another. And so there's got to be a group among the people who stand up for right and forbid what's wrong, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. And what group is that? It's the Muslims. It should be the Muslims. And if you're not conscious, the thing is, and I heard the brother talking about this to a point, that if we're not conscious about what's going on, then you're going to fall into the trap. You're going to fall into the snares, and you're not going to realize it. They're going to be putting so much pressure on us to accept these negative things that you are going to be grafted into accepting it, despite what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says and the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, that clearly say these things are wrong. You're going to be grafted into it if you're not mindful of the effect that it's having on society, and the way it's one individual at a time is being lured into the trap. And so I don't know about you brothers, but I certainly don't want to be one who's ensnared by this evil doing. I don't want to be any part of it. May Allah protect us and guide us and have mercy on us all.
I mean, and it takes a person of character and strength to speak about these things. Let's. I'm reiterating the point again, which Brother Kenny so well elaborated on. If people think these are just conspiratorial lunatics who are just espousing whatever comes into their head, let's observe the repetitive point which I'm making, which is, again, half the world's population are Muslims and Christians. They believe in the return of Jesus, upon whom be peace. We've got a glorious opportunity to do dawah to Christians, for them to realize how our eschatology fulfills and meets the requirement of what the precedent will be in the lead up to the coming of these events to ensue, which is the return of Isa alayhi salam, Imam Mahdi, the Dajjal, the metaphorical system which is being set up. It's not for any reason that I've asked you to watch the film The Omen 1, which I'm not sure what you may have got out from it unilaterally. But if we were to sit down and discuss it, which I've tried to do nominally with Brother Mohammed, there are some tremendous things, connotations. The photographer character, Brother Kenny, the most interesting character in this film. He is, in fact, a Andrew Tate Mark II, who has a foresight as to who the Antichrist is as a child, and unknown why he has that foresight, but he's been given a foresight, and he knows who that, and he warns off the American ambassador, and we are eventually told, as a result of his character, that if you expose us, this is people in the today and now, people like Andrew Tate, or perhaps myself or yourself or anyone else, this will be your end. Observe it. We will speak about this in considerable depth going forward, because I've done it's not for no reason that I've picked out this particular film and its devastating consequences for now. This is just small little, and I think Brother Mohammed has been taken by a lot of some of the points that I've made. But that character in himself is today's Andrew Tate, or myself and yourself. If we've understood Islamic eschatology, we've observed the hadiths, and then we've applied the hadiths to what the social conditioning and the narrative is now, it fits a hand in like a glove in a hand. So we need to be aware of this vicious onslaught which is taking place against us. And if we stand in their way, they will finish us. And that photographer in that film is the very very epitome of what that individual was, who knew the Antichrist within. He knew who this child was. For some reason, how did he know? It makes no sense. But Allah gave him some foresight. The very acts of those women at the beginning who sacrificed themselves is a eulogy to show that in your infancy, we will maintain you. And we will look after you. And when you reach your zenith, this is when you will propel us, women. This is what is being propelled now. The Dajjal system is out in full force. The women have all the power now. In the UK here, for example, they're in control. In matrimonial affairs, the legal system, in every avenue, they have all the control. They have all the power. Men are now subjugated. Men's rights organizations are standing up because they're not getting any justice from the family courts, which are totally against them, right from the political system above, right to the end. So that initial lady, that young girl who commits suicide for a nominal reason, when the mother asks to hand the child over and she tries to dissuade her, but she hands her over reluctantly, and then she is given this subliminal message from that dog, an eye-to-eye message. Next thing we know, what is the scene we observe? She stands in the mansion of the ambassador with a rope round her neck and makes the exclamation, "It's all for you, Damien," as she goes crashing through the window. It's like a homage being paid to him. We are sacrificing ourselves in your youth. We will cajole you and maintain you and look after you in your youth. And when you reach your zenith, you will then propel us. And then so she commits a very strange type of suicide. Makes no sense. It's a eulogy to show we will maintain you. And then when the replacement nanny comes in and says to him, desperate to see him, and she looks at him and says to him when she comes in, when he's laying down next to the fire, and she says to him, "Fear not, little one, I am here to protect thee." Again, a woman will protect him, will nurture him, will do everything for him, to the extent of sacrificing her life for him. Why? Because he's building up the infrastructure in, just say, 70s America, 80s America, 90s America. And then that infrastructure is now reaching its climatization now, where women are going to benefit from him. I was speaking to Brother Mohammed about a shocking TV advertisement I've seen, which he can confirm. It's a retro TV advertisement in which this young girl in the US or in Britain somewhere is riding a bicycle with an eye patch. The advertisement is for a Volkswagen Cabriolet car, but she's riding rather a bicycle with an eye patch. She's a blonde-haired girl, maybe around about 10, 11 maximum. She drives past the rainbow sign, which we all know what that signifies, and a mixed race girl. Then the next part of that advertisement shows that same girl has now reached adulthood, maybe middle age. She's now driving a Volkswagen car with an eye patch in her. Same eye patch is still being used. This is a eulogy to the Dajjal, who will be one-eyed. Yeah. This advertisement is a glorification that women are now dominant. He will propel us. The majority of the inhabitants of the hellfire are women because they are ungrateful to their husbands. For whenever a husband has done any good to them, they will say, "For what good have we seen from you?" It's all rushing towards to propelling the women, contrary to what Allah has revealed. That you're well versed in the Bible. You know that the head of woman is man, the head of man is Christ, the head of Christ is God. In the Quran, similar thing. The devout, obedient wife is obedient to Allah and by proxy to their husbands. They're not going to tolerate that for one moment. They're going to propel the women over and beyond. So this propelling took place in that film is showing to you from those two nannies who maintain and look after Damien, that we are women, we are going to look after you in your youth while you're still young, while you still have no power. But we will uphold you and bring you up in the US in the consulate or the ambassador's house. And then when you reach your zenith, your adulthood, which he would be now, this is where, similar age to perhaps what you are, going back to the 70s. Now, when you reach your adulthood, this is where you will propel us. And this is what is being done. So the Dajjal system will be to propel the women, give them all the power. They will be in positions of dominance and authority, contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. This is why I like to bring Christians on board. So when we speak to them about these eschatological matters, they have no option but to listen to us, especially those reasonable-minded Christians, because they want to know, when is the return of Christ happening? 2,000 years have elapsed. The 1 and 2 Thessalonians has failed miserably, as has the Gospel of Mark and Matthew. And the Christians themselves, the eminent scholars, have stated these are the most embarrassing verses of the New Testament. C.S. Lewis has made mention of that, the fact that Christ hasn't returned. So when you then speak to them about these issues, I've observed Christians' interest is perked. They want to know more. Our Islamic eschatology is considerable in depth about that. I can speak about other relations, but this film, why it was so important to mention, was those scenes are a homage to the Dajjal in his infancy. They will look after him. Women will look after him. Those, as we see from these two women. And when he reaches his adulthood, that is when he will propel them, which we are seeing now in conjunction with the hadiths, which I mentioned. I'm rattling through these points very quickly, otherwise we'll be here all night. But the point is, in essence, we are seeing this in full motion. We can go on relentlessly to exemplify the point, from fathers' rights groups to the court systems, to how women are dominating. There's a recent TV advertisement I've seen of a black princess, supposedly here in the UK, going retrospectively back into 16th century Britain, who sits on a long banquet table, surrounded by Caucasian people, white, some women, some men, where a man approaches her. He's obviously her cook, trembling in front of her. Trembling. This is a recent TV advertisement here in the UK. Trembling in front of her to see whether she likes his food or not. And then when she signifies she's not so certain, he rushes to make her other food, trembles and returns. And then she says, oh, okay, it's not bad. And then he breathes a sigh of relief. Phew. These are eulogies to how women are now controlling men. You see how women are controlling men here in the UK. Men can't breathe. I mean, Brother Mohammed will tell you many more stories to exemplify those points. Men are now subdued. They've got no rights in the British law. They are often the whole system, from the top to the bottom, from the Home Secretary, equivalent to your Secretary of State, to the enforcement officers, to head of the police, a woman called Cressida Dick. She was the head of the Metropolitan Police, the most influential police force in Britain, who's a lesbian in a same-sex relationship. And then it goes through to the social workers, who then manifestly impose being rabid anti-men, how they seek to propel women over and beyond men, to give women the entire control of the matrimonial home. I can go into depth, but like I said, I'll be here all night. It would actually probably be we're going into depth privately to speak about these issues, and then seeing, and I've mentioned to you something else before, which we will go into some other time. This is also based upon the hadith, in the attempt of the Dajjal system to overtly crush racism, which sounds paradoxical to what I'm saying, but there is a dastardly, to use your word, plot behind this, which is augmented in Islamic hadith as well, about which people will come together. Here in the UK, there's a tremendous push to push away racism, to crush racism, to propel people of Afro-Caribbean heritage or Afro heritage. It's literally in every facet of the media, in TV advertisements. It's like an attempt to break down the barriers, to inculcate amongst the Caucasian masses that they are a part of you, accept them, love them. So many TV advertisements to that effect. This is based upon Islamic hadiths as well. During these end times, and I remember reading this, Brother Kenny, in a hardback, A5 hardback of Sahih, I think it was Bukhari or Muslim, in a mosque in North London a couple of decades ago. where it makes mention that there will be people from amongst the Europeans, which is, or amongst the Romans, which, as you're aware, is referencing Europeans in Islamic eschatology, who will be of mixed race with close-cropped curly hair, coming from these isles, who will fight against, who will fight with them against the joint Muslim-Christian forces in the prelude to the coming of Isa alayhi salam. Now, getting hold of this hadith, which I read succinctly, and I've reconfirmed with the close friendship I have with other hadith, is there, but finding it has been proving very problematic. But the reason why they're propelling black people is in eventuality for this race of people who will fight against the Muslims going forward as representatives, that's feeling fully amalgamated within these societies. Hence, this is the reason why they're being propelled to the and that is why I've asked you to watch Trading Places. Brother, watch Trading Places. They're inculcating that film now. You understand? And we are exemplars. We are seeing this as live examples of what they're up to. I'm going around the streets of London, not daily, but regularly, stopping people of black heritage and telling them about this. Then we have the opportunity to do dawah. Lots of Christians I speak to are black. But what I'm trying to show, this dastardly game is taking place. The carrot, you've heard of the euphemism, the stick and the carrot. Black people were given the stick through the slave trade. Now they're being dangled the carrot, in which they are being fully immersed into society, fully propelled. Now they're trying to crush racism at every extent. But at the same time, it's being done, my brother, for a dastardly purpose, which our hadith tells us why they're doing it. Hence the propelling of cohabitation between mixed race with black man with a white woman. You understand? This is being done for a reason, brother. It's been, and they, for example, show in the 1930s first King Kong film. What do you see? At the top of the Empire State Building, a gorilla-type figure holds a white woman in his hand. And do you remember that film I'm talking about? It's the first King Kong film, 1930.
Yes.
He stands on the top of the Empire State Building and holds that white woman. This is like a tease for what we're planning decades in advance. And just to substantiate my point, if people think this guy's well off track, I want to ask you a quick question, which I've asked everybody else. Can I ask you, and if you can answer quickly, for what reason did Pharaoh order the firstborn of every Israelite male child should be killed? Do you know the reason for that?
I know what the narrative is, that he was trying to stop the coming of the Messiah, the one that was chosen, the one that was prophesied about.
Masha, you're much closer than anyone else has spoken to. The reason why Pharaoh ordered the killing of the firstborn of every Israelite mother was because his soothsayers, the magicians of Pharaoh, told him there is someone who's going to be born from amongst the Israelites who is going to take your kingdom away from you.
Yeah.
And look what he did. This eventuality only took place generations in advance. Am I correct? We know Musa alayhi salam eventually took away and freed the children of Israel and took his power away from him. But we notice what happened. This happened decades later. But they plotted it. His soothsayers told him decades in advance. This is what's going to happen. If you don't kill them, there's going to be amongst them someone who's going to be born who is going to take your power away from you. Hence, he ordered the firstborn of Israelite mother should be killed. So the point of me making this analogy to the King Kong analogy is what they planned decades in advance. Those Zionists who read our hadith better than us and who plot and plan as a result of that. And this is what they're up to. They give their subliminal messages. But if you understand deeply what they're up to, and when they tell you, if you expose us, this will be your end, like the end of the character in the Omen 1 film. Everything I'm saying is very powerful because I can go relentlessly on. That film is the most powerful film I've ever seen because its connotations for today are deadly. Absolutely. Even if you watch the film, the adhan is played. Do you recall the adhan being played when they go to Egypt to meet one of an archaeologist? That's to show to you, brother, at the beginning of the film, they showed how that Catholic priest exchanged the child. If you watch the film carefully, He exchanged the child, who was a child of Satan, and they killed the ambassador's child. That Italian priest, whatever, who sold himself to the devil, is a eulogy to show how we will infiltrate the church. How we will infiltrate the church. And how have they done it today? We know it. LGBTQ, pastors, vicars, same-sex individuals marrying each other within the church. We will infiltrate that. And then why is the adhan being played? It makes no sense. Even though they've gone to Egypt, they could have gone. There was no need to play the adhan to signify that they've come to Egypt. The reason why the adhan is played is to show that Islam, you are the target. We've already usurped Christianity. Okay, this is what we will usurp it. That guy at the beginning shows that. I'm talking about that Italian priest, not the other priest who eventually had, the spear goes through him. I'm talking about the Italian priest who can't speak at the end because he sold himself to Satan and allowed the Antichrist to enter the church, to enter the American ambassador's place. That's to signify how we will infiltrate your church and make what God has revealed to the contrary as to the point of address. And the adhan being played is to signify to you, Islam, you are the target. That is the reason why the adhan is played there. You understand, brother, the significance of these particular points. And it rallies, and just elaborate, I can go on relentlessly within that film to show how they are inculcating this today in today's society. Propelling of feminism, crushing of man, contrary to what God has revealed, forwarding on every ungodly element, usurping the church, which I've made mention, and now Islam, you are the target. But there's so many points which I can address from the film, which we will need to sit down and to go to in depth and to understanding. But for us, I want to actually send a message to Andrew Tate. I don't live too far from the offices where Mohammed Hijab and all these brothers, have their dawah organizations, to ask him, to warn him, to tell him what you are saying in terms of your life is justified. You are in danger. If anyone thinks that Andrew Tate is not in danger, listen, this guy had no reason to become Muslim. He's the third most Googled person on planet Earth. Such is his mass influence. He's come out, if you've seen his recent interviews, how he's come out and said, I'm fearful of my life. But his azmir, his inner inclination, did not allow him to stay quiet. You understand? And he says it. This is, they're after me. They're going to come. What's the need for him? He's leading the most luxurious life humanly possible. He's filthy rich. He can do anything he wants. But no. And he's saying, and everything, amazingly, if Brother Andrew Tate was to listen to everything he's saying about his supposed, in quotation mark, controversial views, and was to listen to some of the points that we've addressed and we've spoken about, it's in total conformity. Islamic eschatology will enforce his faith. He'll be absolutely amazed to see everything I've said is augmented in the Islamic narrative with the hadiths and everything that we've mentioned. Because this is everything that he said is essentially what I've just mentioned as well. So it's quite staggering that he concludes as such. And that film, the film which I've made mention of Oman 1, that character is in fact a warning, like to Andrew Tate, what has recently happened to Imran Khan, for example, in Pakistan, trying to impose some form of, betterment for the lives of the people. But the corrupt system in place and outer influence won't allow that. They don't want someone to do any good. Okay, and he's had his second strike. He was first of all knocked out of power. Now he's been shot. His leg is in part, and the third one will be to finish him total. Let's not think for any reason that the second strike, which Brother Tate mentioned, has not happened to Imran Khan. They could have killed him instantly if they wanted. This is just a warning for him. You're pushing it, and your next stage, as Brother Mohammed is absolutely certain, will be his assassination. But anyone who tries to do any good for the betterment of the people, to, for example, take Pakistan out of the IMF, the Americans don't want that. They want them steeped in what you call in debt, so they can become under their influence relentlessly. So these are some of the points I made about this film and its significance now. I hope it becomes more and more apparent. And the other film which you need to watch is Trading Places, and we can go into depth about the hadith which I've quoted in relation to what's happening now. Brother Muhammad's becoming more attentive to it, to show to you as well that what he's observing is being fully fashioned in preparation for these end time scenarios which will ensue, how the demographics of countries are changing, why racism worldwide is attempting to be crushed. These are all augmented within the Antichrist, rather within the Dajjal system, in the precipice for the coming of Isa alayhi salam, and what this universal morality will be like in conjunction with this new world order.
May Allah protect us. Brothers, listen, I could keep listening to this all evening because it's a very interesting subject, to say the least. Brother Mustafa's get a lot of information about this, and it's very, very interesting information, to say the least. I'm going to have to go because I need to pray Asr. It's approaching Maghrib already, and I didn't realize it was this late. But I'm going to have to go. I need to do Salah. But listen, brother, it's good hearing your voices. And Brother Mustafa, I'm going to try to make a point to watch those other two movies, inshallah, so we can talk more about this because it's very interesting and something that we need to be mindful of as time progresses. So I bear witness to no God other than Allah, and I do bear witness that Muhammad is his final servant and seal of all prophets. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Inshallah. So alhamdulillah, we got to wrap the show up now, guys. It's been over 3 hours, and I initially wanted it for 2 hours, but alhamdulillah, it's gone over 3 hours. So jazakallah khair, Brother Mustafa, for joining me and staying with me for the full 3 hours. And thank you to the brothers and sisters in the chat. I hope you found this really interesting, and hopefully we can do another show in the future. Jazakumullah khairan, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Any final words from you, Brother Mustafa?
No, jazakallah to everybody who's listened on, and I hope I've made sense. I would encourage people to watch 3 films. Please watch the entire films. Number 1, The Omen 1, 1976, featuring Gregory Peck. Number 2, Trading Places, 1983, Eddie Murphy. And the third film was The Scars of Dracula, 1973. I'll repeat that again. Omen 1, 1976, Scars of Dracula, 1973, and Trading Places, 83. What are those films' significance to today? How they're embedded in Islamic eschatology, how the Dajjal forces, what they're plotting, how they're plotting it, for people of observation, intuition, and spending time in total contemplation of these things will be aware. Our Islamic hadiths have the answer. It's not my genius or my, it's just I've used my noddle a little bit, my brain a little bit. I've augmented it on the base of our hadith and all the relevant things which are observable. If anyone wants to challenge me, you're welcome to do so, but I can assure you that I've got a watertight argument. Christians in particular, you need to realize this. This is a fantastic platform to do our dawah, and inshallah, I'm confident we can achieve much by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair.
Ameen wa iyyakum. Finally, guys, just remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and God willing, I'll be at Speaker's Corner this Sunday. So I'll see you there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.